Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to HeroesCCL presented by Wisdom. My name is Bahamut, joined by Grubby and Justing. And as always, before we get into our kind of run a show for the next matchup, want to always as well check in with you two and see what you got up to for your break. Grubby, what'd you get up to, bud?
I played one full game of a turn-based. I played one full game of a turn-based strategy game.
Whoa! Well,
it was a really quick map.
I was gonna say you must be very good. Maybe like good, like pro good or something like that. Maybe?
Well, it's kind of a new game, Songs of Conquest. You can apparently play like 5-minute games, or if you play on a really small map against AI. So I got that squeezed in. It was fun.
Ooh, I swear I just saw that recently, but I'll have to check that out after the broadcast. Justin, what'd you get up to in the break?
I was just cutting up some tomatoes. That's all, really.
Are you
I was just trying it out. It's a lot harder than it seems.
Making ketchup?
Yeah. It's a process. It is definitely a process. But thank you for humoring me. In our short little break, I managed to go and eat a banana, stretch my legs, and get everything reset. But let's go ahead and start diving in because we are getting ready for our next matchup. And before we get into that, I want to remind you how to utilize this Ball Street partnership that we have. It's up to you to get the best picks for the winning team live as you're watching on cclmarkets.com. It's free. If you pick wrong, you can sell your shares and buy the other teams before the match is over. CCL markets trade from 0 to 100, with shares of the winning team valuing at 100 and shares of the losing team expiring at 0. There's tons of prizes this season, so join the play during every HeroesCCL broadcast. And once again, thank you so much, Ball Street, for partnering with us as well, make sure you guys guys and gals, load on up the website, get your predictions ready, because we are getting into our second best of 5 of the day. And Grubby, you can start breaking down who are we going to be seeing over on the side of WildHeart?
We are going to be seeing Haben, Ivy Kings, Mason Blaze, Weary Day, Zergling, and Roger. Some of you may remember Zergling as the very confident speaking offlaner for WildHeart. And he makes the battle cry that has become kind of legendary now when they are winning. I'm not going to attempt to reproduce it, but when you hear it, you'll know. That's when you know they're vibing. Maybe we can get in on those comms and see what's going on with them. This is a very strong team, kind of like the dark horse of the season, right? Like HeroesHearth was saying.
I feel like yeah. With what Madara was saying is that definitely WildHeart could be this dark horse. Justing was saying it. I'm starting to see it a little bit, but it's only week number 2. We haven't even seen them play yet. But of course, Justing, who are we going to see on the Oxygen Esports side of the battleground?
On Oxygen, we've got a European team. We've got Bad Benny playing the tank, Haswabs playing the flex, Copenhagen the offlaner, Nick the other flex, Yasu the support, and Rutsu playing that 6th member, the substitute for the team. Last week, we saw Bad Benny in particular, in my opinion, just really showing up. Bad Benny looked kind of above everyone else, as just the best tank in the league in the first week by far. I think he played nearly perfectly, and he did lead the team alongside Haswabs and Yasu to 30k success last season. So this is a very, very scary roster, and they've got good new additions. Oxygen, very scary, a potential first place team, but I think WildHeart is as well. So I'm really excited for this match.
You talked about the prowess of Bad Benny on the tank role, but to be honest, my biggest takeaway from week number 1, at least from some of these teams, was WildHeart Haben. Haben was so good at tanking. Positionally, he was out of vision, but he was always able to engage on that Muradin, for example. Garden of Terror, I think, was the map where he was utilizing that. Just kind of, I think it was the Zagara as well that was kind of giving that vision. So just so many synergistic tools that we're seeing from WildHeart, and Haben's tanking is something I'll be watching in this game. But of course, let's start getting you all informed as to where we're going to and how we got to Garden of Terror. This will be the map choice of Oxygen Esports, as it looks like, and I actually did not write down this one little thing. It is going to be the members of WildHeart opting in for first pick priority, banning out Alterac Pass, and it will be the members of Oxygen banning out Towers of Doom. Grubby, we got Garden of Terror. I feel like we're seeing so much Garden of Terror, as this is the replacement map to Volskaya Foundry from last season.
Yeah, it looks like teams kind of like this a little bit more, Garden of Terror. It used to be quite a slow map, Typically, Garden of Terror was known as the map where you'd be good for more than 30 minutes of gaming entertainment. That's after the draft. But then Volskaya Foundry became that new one. And we've been seeing a bit more quick games on Garden. Garden has 6 locations where the seed can spawn. Some are like clear give-ups, and some are like easy takes. But that doesn't take away the ability to counterplay your opponent's seed acquisition a little bit. Even when it's something you initially plan to give up, because the position is too hard to attack into, you've still got heroes like Junkrat, Chromie, Hanzo, and whatnot that can make it go a lot slower, poking away from afar. Sometimes even Brightwing will take the Arcane Flare bonus range talent rather than the Polymorph talent at level 4 on maps like Cursed Hollow or indeed of Terror in order to make that take a lot longer for the opponent. A very tactical map, loads of mercenary camps, lots of different seed locations with a relatively weak objective, and I say that because it takes 3 objective phases to actually win it for your cause. Because of this, it's weak, and it really comes down to more classical MOBA-esque skill set of rotations, macro, team fights, and continuous maneuvering and vision play.
Grabbing camps is a massive factor on this map because there are so many camps to grab. That gives you a lot of supplemental experience. It also gives you some lane pressure. So let's say it's maybe you have an objective phase that's in a fortuitous position, but you've got siege giants in mid and you've got a bruiser camp in top. It becomes a lot difficult for the enemy team to step into you unless they want to just give up some structural value. But of course, Justin, I want to get your thoughts on Garden of Terror or what we're even seeing ban-wise coming out from the side of WildHeart or Oxygen.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things that you can play on this map to stall, like Grubby had mentioned. Also, something that is common is to see the top and bottom lanes turn into just solo lanes, which is something Grubby's talked about quite a lot, is having 2 offlaners, but almost all the offlaners that are meta right now being banned away, all the main ones. You have Dahaka and Hogger banned out, and then a response from Oxygen banning out the Blaze. Blaze and Hogger have felt like the strongest offlaners overall. So I like what WildHeart has done here. They've created a situation where either they'll get Blaze in exchange for no Hogger or Dahaka, or they get the Lucio, and that's the trade here. They get a Lucio, which we haven't seen nearly any of it because I would guess that Lucio is the second most banned after Junkrat. We've seen him banned almost every single game so far, and very quick pickups by Oxygen in response.
I do like that Brightwing Hanzo doesn't show much, if anything, of the draft, but of course, Grubby, any thoughts as well?
Hanzo by HeroesHearth again. He mentioned the hero was very fun to play. You make a lot of plays with him and carry a bit, and he's going to pick it again. I love to see him play on it as well. We get the counter pick Sylvanas. Very strong drafts and picks for each respective player so far. Zergling is going to be rocking the Rexar. Like you said, guys, the 3 top solo laners have already been removed, so where do you go to? Is it Thrall? Is it Artanis? Is it Samuro? We see that in the diamond mines and below. Oh, it's going to be Rexar here, a more rare pick, maybe because of his more, I don't want to say janky, it's quite well made, different mechanics. Rexar going to be coming out. And there's the counter ban against Nick once again, who loves to run some Sergeant Hammer.
Justing, I want to say Grubsting. I'm trying my best not to do it, but every weekend I almost nearly do it. But your intuition is completely correct. Lucio had 100% involvement rate last weekend. Just only counting the maps from last weekend, he was picked in 3 games, banned in the rest of the 14 games from last weekend, and we just saw Lucio ban down all 3 games of the series we just saw. So this is yeah, a lot of priority into Lucio, probably the second most banned healer out there. But Joanna Urel, the members of Oxygen, Justing, are really putting together some scary, scary picks here.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what WildHeart is planning here. We'll find out right now, but getting Johanna and Urel on the 3-4 there for Oxygen seems kind of illegal. It seems like they shouldn't have been able to get that. I'm not quite sold on the Rexar over the Urel, because if nothing, it kind of feels a little weird not to just take the Urel and force the opponents to play the Rexar. It's a weird thing to prioritize the Rexar over it. And then also the Johanna. I mean, theoretically, WildHeart could have taken the Johanna themselves instead of that Rexar and banned the Urel, and then everyone would have had a weird offlane to play. Leoric was still available. There were definitely options, so very surprised to see the direction that WildHeart has gone with the draft. But they do have the level 20 spike that Rexar has with the Unleash the Boars upgrade that roots everybody, whereas Urel level 20, not quite as strong, a lot more of just a self-reliant kind of jumping around, doing consistent damage, but not really huge playmaking on the Urel. And Genji, again, we see, this is interesting. They do have it into Zagara, one of the most vulnerable backliners. But Zagara plus Lucio is going to have a little bit more of a good time to kind of fend off a Genji. Lucio does have just really good peels, and in my opinion, from playing with Weary, so I have a lot of experience just with Weary Day, I think he's not the best aggressive support, but I think that he is just the best defensive support. I think as far as, like, he's not the most, I wouldn't say that he's just the best support in general. I think it's hard to say who that is, but I think in terms of defending people and peeling, he is just the best support in my opinion at doing that. He's known for his Uther, where we found out about him because he stunned me out of my Diablo charge like 5 times in a row on Uther mid-charge, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's nuts. His defensive play is incredible, so I think if Genji's able to get onto the backline, onto Zagara, it's tough, but a lot will come down to Weary Day on the Lucio to protect Mason Blaze on that Zag.
Well, thank you as always, Justin, for the analysis, the breakdown. We're going to get into this first map in our second best of 5 of the day. We have WildHeart Esports in the blue, Haben on the Muradin, IBTings on the Sylvanas, Zergling to play Rexar, Weird Day on the Lucio, Zagara to be played by Mason Blaze, and of course Misha to be played by Misha. Over in the red, we got Oxygen Esports, Hazuabs on the Hanzo, Yasu on the Brightwing, Bad Benny on the Joanna, Copen on the Urel, and Nick on the Genji. It's a hard call for me, Grubby, but I'm leaning into WildHeart. I like everything they have here. On paper, it looks really good to me. I don't doubt that Oxygen could take this, but I think WildHeart, they got that edge, and I'm excited to see what they can do with this. And what do you think of everything as we have a little bit of cheese in top lane, but no structures to fall?
Yeah, 40% damage on the tower there. Nice. Someone in chat, I should mention, actually predicted that Nick was going to be picking Genji before he got locked in.
Hire
impressive.
him.
I
Bring
asked,
him to the
how
land.
does it... What's that?
Hire them. Bring them to the land. Obviously, they read the script.
Well, the thing is, I asked them how they know, and they're like, yeah, it's obvious it's so good against the team that WildHeart has here. So there's at least someone that heavily believes in Nick's Genji here. Okay. I do think both have a strong team. The left side team is what used to be described as a team with too many specialists, but that actually, at least in the past, worked pretty well in Garden of Terror.
Yeah.
Zagara and Sylvanas take camps really well, better than Genji and Hanzo. So if anyone is going to flood the map with mercs and make very few mistakes and win off the back of macro, that could be WildHeart. Mm-hmm. In terms of sheer fighting power, team fights, I would give an edge here indeed to Oxygen.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that's a great way to look at it as well. When it comes to the micro, it's leaning one way. When it comes to macro, it leans another, and it's just going to be who can execute in their who can execute best on this map. That's always feels like a cop-out as a caster, but it really comes down to how the players played and what they actually decide to do in some of these moments. Weary Day doing a great job of harassing Yasu, just poking at the Brightwing, not looking for a kill, not really even setting up for one, but just mostly trying to slow down rotations and force some abilities out from Yasu to force cooldowns. As we do have our first seed spawning here in the bottom right of the map, IBTings is going to be able to put some pressure onto Copen, but the phase shift from Yasu comes through, and with that, Brightwing will have the cooldown. She does have that hyper shift at level 1 for the cooldown reduction, and I can actually check for anyone wondering. She's already at 22 seconds, and 20 seconds actually with the cooldown on phase shift, so the assumption is that she should make it to the objective. But the other assumption too is that no one from the side of WildHeart will step into this right side seed.
It is going to be the dream shot for Brightwing here in order to interrupt the seed when that situation comes up. That situation is not now. This is one of those seed locations that we mentioned is generally given up by the left side team, but you can sometimes get the interrupt with someone like Zagara. We do have first quarter blood coming in here with a kill on Misha. Quarter blood. Little bit of blood.
Haven comes in. This is still the first objective. Throws down one Thunderclap and backs away. Actually, might go for the Dwarf Toss over the wall to interrupt Nick. Lands the Stormbolt. Weary Day here as well. Overwatch, and I mean, it's just all Overwatch players just up against each other, but that's a great charge from Zergling. Misha getting the stun onto Nick, who's going to be able to get a couple of those Shuriken Mastery stacks from that level 4. Speaking of stacks from level 4, we also do have that Hunter-Gatherer for the Rexar Misha. And at level 1, Hazuabs will be looking for those scatters at 10 out of 20, and does have the explosive arrow for some extra wave clear. And I love the delay from WildHeart. They're not fighting over this. They're just poking at this, allowing Zagara to find split soak, allowing Sylvanas to be able to push up this mid wave and get a little bit of structural value. This delay is all WildHeart, and it's working so well, because if you look at the minimap, so many members of Oxygen are backed up or turtled around their structure, except for Yrel, of course.
You know, it's funny, when I look at Bad Benny's movement, it looks so unfamiliar and erratic. I get this sense like, oh, he's a noob. Like, it doesn't look like what I see in Storm League. And the opposite is true, of course. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. And just like the places he stands, it looks like he's like AFK watching telly, or like he's standing still, but he's doing pure vision control.
This was actually something that, that was something that I was trying to practice in my own games this week. I was playing a lot more Muradin, I was playing some more tanking, some Johanna here and there, and I was trying to tell my teammates, I'm like, I'm not going to help you clear the wave, I'm going to sit in the bush with my abilities off cooldown, and if they step in, the enemy, I can condemn them, I can stormbolt them, and I've been practicing that, and CCL and even just chats with Justin has helped me understand tanking role a little bit better. It's so nuanced, it's such a hard role, but you know, the more you watch, the more you can learn from these things. As you counter, oh, I didn't think that they would get that. There will be the first blood over in the mid lane onto the Sylvanas, so a seed for a kill. I actually thought that the dream shot, as you had mentioned earlier, to get these delays was going to land, but just the travel time of the missile or the travel time of the arcane flare was a little too long, and that will be WildHeart. They lose one, but they get the first seed onto the aggressive side of the map, with the next one spawning on the top left.
I love that Zagara Mason Blaze, he was like running away from Yrel, and then he suddenly moved in on Yrel again. And Yrel took that as a telegraph that he knew, therefore your teammates must be coming to me. Because there's no way that you as Zagara want to step up to a near melee. So just based on, you know, presumably only what he felt in Zagara's movement, he knew the story that Lucio must be coming up. So nice job having that, of course, awareness by Copen.
We look at the level 10, Sylvanas and Muradin are holding. The assumption is Avatar and Wailing Arrow. There's the Wailing Arrow. We could see Haymaker.
Okay.
We could, but we're not going to. I had to hold my breath for a second, but it's just one of those things where I've seen Justin talk about it a lot. There's a blessed shield, there's an arrow. There's so much utilized here. As Haven pops the Avatar form, there's going to be a polymorph onto the Muradin, who is so very low. He needs to cycle out, has the dwarf toss away, has the dwarf block as Misha goes down. Another quarter kill to the side of Oxygen as the Devouring Maw connects onto Yrel. She didn't pop out in Defender, has the insta mount from the Divine Steed, and it seems like this engagement is over. Misha, the only thing to really fall, as we do have objectives still up and available, but Zagara, she might be looking to push up that wave a little further.
He goes top. No infest. Infest, of course, is insane value when you push with a wave, but it is so all in. It makes you so unaware of getting ganked, so greedy, that it really is a win more talent. Like if you're being ignored as Zagara and you're able to free push a lane without getting ganked, you know, cool for you, but you're probably winning the game anyway. Here we are going with the talent Corpse Feeders that really synergizes better with the level 7 and level 16 talents. She's going to be picking up, which is loads of percentage damage. That's going to help her kill heroes like Yrel and Johanna a lot easier than before. She needs that 16 talent. Until then, it's a job for the Blues to get as many seats as they can with their macro tactics. Not a lot of kill power, even a little bit down on experience, but WildHeart is playing the comp as it's supposed to be played, in a specialist way.
I like this. There's going to be a big arrow onto Zergling. He tries to back away, might use Misha to stall out some people. Nick goes over the wall with the X-ray, goes for the deflect, and Nick is chunked quite heavily. No rotation from WildHeart into this top lane. Nick will have to back. Yasu's so very low, and Haben's got the thunderclap. The members of WildHeart finding their own first kill into this Brightwing, and now the Mega Siege through bottom lane will be coming through. The seed is up and available. Haven could go for this, but IBTings has the black arrows. They want to confirm the fort really quickly here. In top lane, Yrel is pushing things up, and I think she's fine for now. Still has the Ardent Defender. If the members of WildHeart get this, I want to make a quick note on how the Garden Terror spawns. It spawns up as far as your minion wave. So if you don't have a wave in the lane, and you have a wave that's just spawning at your core, that's where the Garden Terror spawns. The difference, though, in comparison to like Tomb of the Spider Queen, which spawns as far up as the enemy minion wave, is that the Garden Terror doesn't naturally lose health over time like the Web Weavers. So these Guard Terrors can push if you would say technically indefinitely. Obviously, their structures. Blessed Shield goes out, doesn't connect, and the seed goes over to the side of Oxygen. But look at top lane. Zagara, Mason Blaze, finding that value. I love this. They give the seed, but they get a fort.
Arrow coming in, hits Lucio, Copen jumps in, X marks the spot, and Lucio has been deleted out of this pitiful existence. Haven trying to run away, he's got the avatars, trying to jump away, can't, gets polymorphed. Double kill by Oxygen. I want to rewind this for a second here and say what exactly WildHeart did here. They got the kill on Brightwing. They had 3 options. There was a siege cam pushing mid. They could go and kill that. They ignored it. It killed their towers. They could go use Black Arrow push on the bottom fort. That's what they tried to get it and tried to level up. Or they could have gone for the seed 5v4. They didn't, and now they've lost the seed and a couple of kills. Let's check out this engagement just now. It was quite chaotic. They tried to go for Genji. Nick walks away. We see the arrow coming in. Kind of hitting at the back end of Lucio there. Just not enough movement speed to escape from there. And this is why Hanzo is so strong at the pro level. Every single time there's an engage, Hanzo lets loose and gets that counter engage.
Yeah. And
you've got a cool, yeah, go ahead.
HoTS is a god when it comes to landing these arrows. I mean, we've talked to HoTS in the past as there's a dive onto Haben, in the mid lane, and that's an X strike to, once again, mark the kill. X marks the kill, if you will. Yasuo gets slowed by the boars, but has the blink heal to disengage. And I like, Kier's Hanzo was pretty good in the last series, but it's, when you look at HoTS when it comes to the Hanzo, like, it's just, to me, it's another level. Like, it's when you talk about Kier's Zeratul, it's on a different level because HoTS just has this intuition of where to throw arrows. We talked to him last season where he was nailing some huge arrows and the enemy that was in the bush, and I was like, we would ask him, like, how do you know that they're there? Is this just intuition? Is this a gut feeling? He's like, you know, I just played the game so much that I have a feeling they're there. I go for it, and we kind of make these big plays, and here comes another one. Double hit. Copen comes in. A lot of damage onto Mason Blaze. No kill this time, but a forced well tap from Mason.
So cool, like, when you start to have this feeling about where people are going to be, you know them better than they even know themselves. After all, if they knew themselves, they knew where they would be and would then therefore not be there because Hanzo's on the other side. HoTS is on the other side. So really some Sun Tzu stuff here from HoTS, so he need not fear the outcome of 100 battles or 100 arrows for that matter, which is why they're all HoTS arrows, EU arrows. Sick hits there. Now it's on a 30-second cooldown. HoTS narrowly jumps away from danger. Haben misses the mark. Misha left alone, getting attacked. Misha getting healed up, and don't forget, has that permanent 15 armor. Insane level 4 talent by Rexar, Hunter-Gatherer.
So with the engagement not connecting, the members of Oxygen back away for a second or two, maybe tapping some wells. Seems like the drone is a little bit low. Got a Haunting Wave to check the bush from Ivy Tings. Does see Copen with the charge on the Avenging Wrath. Does go in. High fives from the Lucio. Will connect. Here comes Haben. Stormbolt, a little short on to Copen. There's the Wailing Arrow from Sylvanas a little bit late. The Ardent Defender does come through.
Ooh.
A double Devouring Maw from Zagara will connect. What is the play after this? Copen already utilizing the Ardent Defender. Hanzo lands an arrow. That's going to be Sylvanas going down. Nick in the backline trying to find the kill onto Mason Blaze and manages to do so. Weary Day trying to get the counter kill but can't do it. Misha does go down. Things are falling apart on the side of WildHeart as Haben goes for the Dwarf Toss away and he's not able to clear the wall. He gets locked in. It's a triple kill. A triple .25 kill if you really want to break it down as Misha does fall. And here comes the big bad. Oh! Almost kill onto Weary Day. But here comes the... Oh, Nick? Nick?
No.
Nick?
Not like this.
Not like this. No, Nick!
I respect the grind. I see what he was going for. But, you know, short by an inch, short by a mile. Sadly for him, could not let that go. Someone was very low, he had to go in. But, what a sick scatter there.
Yeah.
That was like easily something like 1,000 damage, if not more, by HoTS there on a single target with that scatter past the wall.
I'm waiting for when HoTS does a cosplay stream of Hanzoobs. That's the day I'm waiting for, honestly.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. We saw triple tap Nova happen today, so that's gonna happen too.
Oh yeah, Madara's gonna totally do a Nova cosplay stream. I'm waiting for that one as well. You gotta cosplay the thing you're good at. That's why I do Falstead cosplay streams. But we have the members of Oxygen already on the top right of our screen, waiting for the Bruiser camp for top lane. As the Garden Terror phase ends, we got some decent waves pushed in. The map overall looking, I wouldn't say equal, but the members of Oxygen with the structural lead in mid lane.
Yeah, very nice structural lead, which is going to give them 1 catapult per 3 waves against no catapults at all. This fort should be well defended here by Oxygen so that they can kind of... You know, the middle fort is the most important at denying enemy rotations and controlling the center. Just like the middle chessboard is the most effective at controlling the map, so is the middle fort here. Top and bot are win condition lanes, generally speaking, because it's easiest to maneuver around the core via top or bot. But mid are the map control forts. WildHeart wants to take that down a peg. They have about 10 seconds until Storm Tier talents are reached. They're using this most narrow of windows to try and add a little bit of damage before falling away, stealing away into the night. They look at the minimap, they're like, oh god. It's red. It's everywhere. And I think Oxygen are going to be on the warpath, and indeed they are.
Yrel is going to pop one of the many self-cleanses that Yrel has, is whether it be the Hand of Freedom or the level 20 with the Seraphim. I think it was actually Seraphim. Might have just come off a cooldown. I was checking the cooldowns on that one. But Seraphim's off cooldown, so is Hand of Freedom, because they're both very short cooldowns. Seed is spawning in the top center of the map. We've got Siege Giants in bottom lane. Yrel popping that Hand of Freedom, stepping in with the Righteous Hammer. And the reason Copen's doing this is not to try and find a kill, not to displace someone into the allies. It's mostly to push back the enemy to allow the Catapult and the Siege Giants to get some free siege onto the Keep Front Gate. We are going to see a decent chunk of siege onto that Keep Front Gate in top lane as Nick, agility is over the wall. He pulls the sappers. He's trying to pull all the sappers over here, but they're going to clear this out, and it'll be another seed to the side of Oxygen. No Garden Terror as WildHeart Esports look for 20, waiting with the turtled up wave clears.
Seed just got taken. Maybe in a couple of seconds or so, we can take a listen in on one of the teams.
Yeah.
See how they're getting on in this match. This first map of the best of 3 that's already shaping up to be a really good game. Which team would you want to listen to?
Ooh, I was going to leave it to you, but if it's up to me, I kind of want to hear how WildHeart's playing this, because they're in the defensive position. So let's go ahead and let's jump into their comms now, because the seed's spawning.
Let's go.
Or do I let me just show on the wave. Only let me.
Okay.
They might think I'm going to
clear they probably know we're anchoring you, but it should be fine. They could look here.
Yeah. I think
they could be under us too. No. Too far. No zag.
That's fine.
They might be on our bruisers, yeah.
Yeah, they could be bruisers. They could be here.
I can check this.
I guess we can go around. Rexar tracks. No, they just did it.
We just clear this for free and then we play for the next one. And hopefully it's not a bad spawn.
Mid fort's also really low if we want to step up mid and the show on side wave.
It's kind of hard because they can come from different angles with Yrel, but we can try.
Yeah.
I think it's better if we.
As long as it's not right with side wave.
That's fine. We take our easies.
Yeah. They could be there too, but need one tank.
I'm gonna do the tape in. Just let's do this first.
Okay.
We look at mid real quick.
I don't think I think we need to do it.
As we jump out of those comms, I do like how they're approaching this. You heard IB Tings proposing things like maybe we take mid lane, and then you have Zergling coming in with just kind of like, here are the options that the enemy could take into us. So it's kind of this, it's like a nice push and pull between the comms of like offering up ideas, but then also offering up like what could potentially happen if we go for this. And I do like that kind of realization rather than being like mid lane's low, rush it and take it down sort of deal.
Yeah. Sounds really thinking. Oh, they go in on Muradin! Immediately drops to 50%. Sonic Arrow, Swift Strike. They've taken Muradin's avatar out of him.
He does have Reverberation from level 4, which does give him a 5% cooldown on the 90 seconds that is the avatar form. The avatar cooldown. We have Siege Giants in top, Siege Giants in bottom opposing each other. respectively, onto the WildHeart and Oxygen sides. This seed is big for both sides. Bigger for the side of Oxygen Esports since the waves are pushed in quite a bit through mid and bottom, but top lane could be huge for WildHeart. Copen might have an interrupt over the wall. Not the case. There's a condemn from Joanna. Bad Benny looking for something. There's the Avenging Wrath over the wall. A huge combo onto Rexar. Lucio to fall. Devouring Maw's too late. And I believe that's all she wrote when it comes to this objective phase. Yasu gets the channel. Nick and friends on the warpath to potentially end game. As I mentioned, that Garden Terror, it's going to be spawning real far into mid lane onto the keep front gate.
That was pretty disgusting once again. So you have Johanna, right? Bad Benny goes in and he's got his unstoppable running out. And Rexar goes for the stun. That's what everyone was waiting for. Copen came from such a smart location. Oh, hold that thought. Bad Benny goes down here to the keep. Getting the -20 armor from the keep. And getting a few hits from Sylvanas and Zagara as well. Some went wrong there. Now maybe Oxygen can't end. I thought that they were going to end.
I did too. Actually, I already wrote down that they won in my notebook, but we'll see if that's going to be the case, because I mentioned Garden Terrors don't naturally lose health over time. Bottom lane was pushing up quite effectively. This Garden Terror in bottom is really far forward. Ivy Tings and friends are looking at Copen. Ardent Defender is available. Phase Shift from Brightwing will be utilized. Good communication coming out from Oxygen Esports not to burn Ardent when there is that Yrel heroic available. Haben was the MVP of that last engagement, getting the Dwarf Toss in, the Thunderclap, the Stormbolt, the Rewind for the extra Stormbolt to keep Joanna in place, to keep that keep, reducing her armor and reducing her health. Really good play from WildHeart. Can they run at the enemy like this?
They're trying to because they're 1 against 4 forts.
Fair.
Right, so you want to get that fight, and it's almost hard to keep up with Merlin when he's going that fast, but they tried. At this moment, they were still up 1 person, and even had they not been, you've got bad enough odds in the macro to take a fight like that and say, we'd be happy with a 40% win chance fight. Having said that, there are 2 seeds in the bank for WildHeart. That's something they'll have, but I think they should continue to play aggressively. When you look at their vision, they've got tumors now to the bottom right. I'd love to see them ignore bottom lane, ignore the bruiser camp, and go straight to the bottom right siege camp and start fighting over that.
We'll see if Queen Nightshade will be blessing the members of WildHeart Esports in the next objective phase. It is going to spawn in the bottom center of the map, as we can see on said mini-map, and I'm just looking 3-9 in kills, 22-23, so a little bit of scaling advantage when it comes to damage, health, and such to the members of Oxygen, but honestly, Grubby, this is a close one. Like, I know we're looking at really, really close structures between these we're looking at a lot of low structures on the side of WildHeart and still 3 keeps for Oxygen, but one bad team fight either way could be game. Like, with Sylvanas and Zagara, if the members of WildHeart find a good team wipe, maybe they take 3-4 enemy heroes down, they could rush through mid, rush through a lane that might have a little bit of extra pressure already applied, and go for the win. But the same can be said for Oxygen. If they find a couple kills, mid or bottom is a win condition for this red team, and WildHeart knows that. You can see them, they're deathballing, they're grouping up, they're not spreading themselves too thin across the map.
Yeah, and finally, to complete the possible scenarios that you very well described, if nothing happens and nobody gets any kills over the next 5 to 10 minutes, WildHeart also loses, just to whatever catapult wave would have rolled up by then to the keep in some kind of distraction of a fight. And this is the part that makes it be a good odds situation for Oxygen, and which makes WildHeart slightly more desperate to take a fight. Now, all the mercaps are cleared before the objective begins. This is the best situation WildHeart could hope for. They're trying to be in a smart spot.
Nice.
Note how Copen uses Seraphim to check pushes. No stone left unturned.
I loved that call that we just saw, that utilization of Seraphim, because the other thing too is it's got an active cooldown, so it may have a 10-second cooldown, but that 10 seconds starts when you push the button, and you're unstoppable for 2 seconds, so effectively you have an 8-second self-cleanse cooldown. Just wanted to point out the simple caster math on that one that I can do. Yrel jumps in with the Righteous Hammer, puts pressure onto Ivy Tings. Does she have that Templar's Verdict? She does, so she also has the armor reduction as well from that level 16. And it is tense here. I want to point out, the catapults right now are dealing somewhere in like the 800 to 900 range of damage into structures, and those catapults in mid really are going to start applying a ton of pressure to WildHeart. The longer this is delayed for Oxygen, the better, as Grubby had mentioned earlier. If nothing happens, Oxygen wins.
Yeah, there's 2 catapults on core now. They just cleared a wave. So there is going to be core damage almost certainly. They go in on Sylvana. She uses an unstoppable. I think it was given by Lucio. Murden jumps in on Johanna. Brightwing with the level 20 Z. Stormbolt misses. He was unable to interrupt Brightwing because she has the level 20 upgrade. So it procs. Sylvanas goes down. Yasuo's level 20 tech that we don't see often coming in hot here. Abin has to try and run away. It's a 4 versus 5. Sonic Arrow with the stun. Nick on the warpath. They're following. They're chasing. They're trying to get Haben. He's trying to run away. Swift Strike kind of missed. Haben, can he make one more jump away? No, the scatter from HeroesHearth comes in. It's 5 versus 3. And unless something goes strangely weird, this should be the first victory here for Oxygen. They're dropping pretty low, not gonna lie. I'm starting to become a little bit less sure about this, Bahamut.
It is getting a little tense right now. Bed Benny backs away. Oh, wait, Hanzo gets the agility over the wall. Copen jumps in to try and save the day as the core shielding is starting to come back. Nick goes in with some damage here. Oh, wait, Lucio with the heavy caster, I think, had the stun, but it doesn't matter. That's going to be game number 1 over to the side of Oxygen Esports. 24 minutes and 30 seconds into the map. I do want to point out that last engagement, I was watching Nick on the Genji. I believe he got 2 resets onto X-Strike because that living weapon level 20. Yes, okay, so he did get living weapon cooldown because I was like, did I see an X-Strike? Did I see a second X-Strike? And then I think he was like around 30 or so seconds for another cooldown. But of course, Justin, you were able to sit and watch all of this unfold. Is WildHeart still that dark horse you're thinking of, or is Oxygen just so freaking strong right now?
WildHeart definitely still has a chance in this series. They controlled all of the early macro. I think the main issue was really a draft thing for them. The Rexar is a liability to this draft. I said when we were looking at the draft, why don't they just take the Urel themselves? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to ban out all those solo laners and then take the Rexar. Especially on a big map like this, you could tell that it worked out for them really well early on, because even though they were getting picked by the Hanzo arrows from HeroesHearth, they were still, every time that happened, they were still in a winning situation macro-wise. But as soon as it came to, after the main turning point was when you had the big fight around the objective and you get that 3 for 0 where Oxygen finally gets the objective. That was really the big turning point of the game. Before that, HeroesHearth here with his arrows was keeping them in the game for Oxygen. Oxygen was actually getting kind of stomped on a macro front for the most of the early game here. WildHeart's macro was nearly perfect at the start. This was kind of what began it all, and it was all off of the back of HeroesHearth with the arrows. HeroesHearth is by far, without a doubt, my MVP in this game. Copen is my second for MVP. This moment as well, Copen getting his ult off, this was the fight that basically sealed the deal for Oxygen, allowing them to basically just win this game for free off of that. Them using all those resources and trying to kill the Urel in that fight and getting it turned by the Urel with the Ardent Defender really won them that fight alongside Hanzo with the huge arrow. It really felt like Copen on Urel and Hanzo, played by HeroesHearth, carried this team in the team fights. Everyone else did their jobs, but no one else overperformed like HeroesHearth and Copen did on the side of Oxygen.
Yeah.
And it felt like in the early game, WildHeart really played super well, but as soon as they start losing their structures, here we see Nick going for a quick little int. As soon as the structures go down, you can't play the game anymore for WildHeart because you have a Zergling on the Rexar that's super squishy. It's not a Urel because they gave that away in the draft. You have Zagara, who has no mobility. She can't go anywhere either. She has no safety for her. It's only the Lucio. And we saw in this situation, this was a desperate moment for WildHeart. Look at this HeroesHearth's arrow, by the way. It was the X-Strike gets the reset, but that was a 4-man, everyone holding hands 4-man arrow by HeroesHearth. He completely smashed WildHeart in this game with those arrows. Like, HeroesHearth's by far the MVP for me in this game. His arrows kept them through the early game. They won all the team fights. It was just really, really nuts by HeroesHearth, showing that he's still got it. We listened to WildHeart comms. It was a little bit different than previous weeks. We had a lot more of IB things. It felt really calm and cool and collected. But it felt like as soon as things started to get bad for WildHeart, they started getting nervous and they started playing kind of desperately. The early game was really calm and controlled, and they were making perfect decision making. They were only fighting when they had a macro advantage. But as soon as things started to go a little bit south for them, it felt like WildHeart really started falling apart and taking these fights that they didn't really need to take. Haben in particular was playing a little bit disjointed from the rest of his team because he really needed to be playing a little bit more peel focused in that composition with their squishy backliners. But I think a lot of it comes down to draft, so I think we're in for a close series.
I want to continue this conversation on the tanking and peeling and all of that, because it's a term we use a lot, and I always think that we kind of gloss over these terms. But before we start breaking that down, I want to break down where we're going to for our second map in our second best of 5 of the day. This is going to be, and I clarified this as well, this will be WildHeart, the losing side, opting for map pick priority. It's not a common thing we see from teams. Usually the losing side goes, I want first pick, the enemy can have whatever they want, but WildHeart, they have a specific thing they want to bring to Sky Temple here, as that will be first pick priority going to Oxygen in this situation. We can talk about the map and all that, but Justin, I want to get back into this concept of peeling. Can you break down for the audience at home, because some of us may know it, some of us may not know it. And it's good to elaborate on these terms, these MOBA terms that we constantly use. So if you could break down what peeling and how maybe Haben could have peeled better in that game.
So I guess I'm not entirely sure. I guess it's like the idea is that you're like peeling something off of your teammates sort of thing. That's like what the terminology means. It's basically just playing defensively and playing. So you have a Stormbolt, and you can either use your Stormbolt to engage on the enemy, or you can use it to protect your teammates. So say they're jumping on you, you use your Stormbolt defensively to peel for your allies. You're just, holding them back. It'd be like if you had a Urel hammer and you bopped them away, that would be peeling as opposed to jumping in and bopping them into your team. That would be whatever the opposite of peeling would be, I guess. But it's just protecting your teammates.
So in this situation, there's one moment that comes to mind when we were looking at those replays. There was a point where, and I think you actually even said this in the draft, or maybe it was Grubby, that Genji was going to dive into the backline and be a pain to Mason Blaze on the Zagara. Should he have been turning around and going to save the Zagara? Should they have been playing more passive on the side of WildHeart? That's the kind of the tactics that I want to discuss here as we're getting into the ban phase here for Sky Temple.
Yeah,
Verdin is not the easiest tank, right, to protect the backline.
He's not the easiest. You do have the option to go the jump slow, which he did take, which is helpful. And also, if you don't think that you're under threat of getting one shot, you can go with the Haymaker, which is insane peel. We kind of joked about that during the game, but honestly, it would have been pretty good there, because if we saw the one time that Avatar was used around mid where they looked for the pick onto Haben and he had to instantly Avatar just out of fear. If he has to use Avatar to survive getting one shot through its CC combo, he's not going to be able to get it off anyways to live realistically. And if a cleanse would save him, a cleanse without Avatar would save him too, because he could just jump away as soon as he gets the high five from Lucio. So I would have honestly rather seen a Haymaker in that game. He's not really the target for Oxygen, and the Haymaker is really good peel, but that adaptation is something that you definitely don't expect out of a team that's more new. And there was almost too many people to peel for on the side of WildHeart. I think their draft had some flaws as the map broke apart with the Zagara and the Rexar being just really vulnerable targets.
Of course, I want to give the opportunity for Grubby as well, if you had any thoughts from Garden of Terror, or any thoughts as we're getting into the Sky Temple draft. We've already had a couple bans come through.
Yeah, I was also very impressed by Copen and HeroesHearth. They were always waiting for that counter engage. So that takes a lot of experience, because the baseline level of thinking is just, I'm going to try to fish with a big dragon arrow. And in order to adapt to that is very difficult as well, because you've got a certain fighting style as a team. It is relatively aggressive, relatively defensive. When you have a moment that you want to go for it, everyone goes on instinct. You don't say, we're going to fake an attack the way we usually really attack, but now we're going to immediately suddenly split and disengage, dodge the arrow, and then do a real attack. Seems like they're being offered something and they go for it. And there was that one moment where Bad Benny, on the top left side, goes in with an Iron Skin. He uses the Iron Skin, he walks away, he's catchable. Rexar sees it, zergling goes for the stun. Now his position is compromised for the Copenhagen that jumped over the wall on top of him. In comes the Dragon Arrow, and they get the double kill like that. This is just how they keep getting him. So one team is thinking in 2 layers of the fight, 2 phases, and the other team is not. And they need to catch up to it.
Oh, deep analysis from Grubby and Justin, but of course, we've got a lot unfolding here. Some good dive, like a really good dive composition from Oxygen. Of course, Justin, any thoughts as we have another Sergeant Hammer ban targeting Nick?
Yeah, I think it might be a matter of time as well with the Sergeant Hammer just in general, with the buff to the Spider Mines build. It's something that we don't really see from other players. We haven't really gotten to see it because all we see is the bans against it for Oxygen. But We tried that at home together with the Avatar Mines, and it was really, really disgusting. I felt very powerful setting up my little spider mine nest and going invisible and just waiting for my prey to enter my web. So that was pretty fun. I think it's actually a pretty strong build.
It is.
So I'm curious if we'll see that coming into play more as the season goes on. But the Anubrak is really high priority, which I think is a bit strange. Teams continuously getting Johanna on the 3-4, which I can't help but feel is just outright wrong. I don't think that priority will remain that way. Just a couple weeks ago, before the most recent patch, Johanna was considered to be the strongest hero in the game, and she was the permanently banned hero over the Junkrat. So to see Johanna fall to being a second rotation pick, fairly uncontested, doesn't really seem right to me, with just a little bit of damage taken off of her kit. And, I mean, Falling Sword, while it is good, Blessed Shield is good as well.
Yes.
Uther Genji, interesting.
Massive lockdown for the side of Oxygen. Grubby, I see you pondering over there. What you got brewing up in your brain?
So they had access to Anduin Genji to try and do the light bomb with Swift Strike in. They're going with Uther. I always find Uther to be quite effective on Sky Temple. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm always happy to see him on this map. And into a mostly melee team. Well, 5 melee essentially. Uther is legit, man. Tychus will circumvent the Uther armor-giving component, but it still very much leans into we're trying to delete the target with Cursed Bullets and Minigun. Uther's quite good against that. Lunara was taken earlier by Oxygen to prevent having to heal against Lunara with Uther, so quite a cleverly crafted draft by Oxygen here.
And of course, Justin, gotta get your thoughts here as we're loading on into Sky Temple map number 2 in our second best of 5 of the day. Who potentially takes this? Who's got the stronger draft? And what are you thinking? What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, it's definitely tough to call this one. WildHeart has a little bit better macro between the Hogger instead of the Blaze. You have the Rhaegar instead of Uther, which are huge macro advantages. You have Greymane with a ton of wave clear and camp clear. It's a weird dynamic, but then you also have things like Anubrak and Genji who can kind of just cheese out structures. And the main thing that I would note here is that Blaze with the attack speed oil reduction on his level 7 is going to do a ton of work against WildHeart. WildHeart's goal is going to be to survive getting dove on by a potential Dragon Blade D-Shield Genji and potentially Leaping Strike Lunara, while at the same time trying to kill Bad Benny on the front line with that double auto attack style. So it'll be on to WildHeart's backline to kill the enemy front line before getting dove.
We'll see if that'll be the case here, and we'll see if WildHeart can execute. Thank you, Justin, as always, because we are loaded on into Sky Temple, ready to go. Map number 2. WildHeart in the blue, Zergling on the Hogger, Mason Blaze on the Greymane, Haben on the Johanna, Weary Day on the Rhaegar, and IBTings on the Tychus. Over in the red, we got Oxygen Esports looking to continue their run in this best of 5 series. Nick on the Genji, Hazuab's on the Lunara, Bad Benny on the Anubrak, Copen on the Blaze, and Yasu to play the Uther. I personally, Grubby, love the chain CC potential between Jet Propulsion, the double stuns from Anubrak and Uther, as well with his just point-blank click stun. I say all of this, and I already have
them stuns.
I already actually, before the game started, I wrote down a WildHeart win, and that was what I was kind of going to get to at the end, is that I still believe with all this chain CC, with all of the infighting you're getting around single temples or even around the boss, I think WildHeart has the draft to take this. What do you think here, Grubby, as we're kind of waiting around for another engagement that's going to pop off in bottom lane?
I'm not sure. I think both drafts look pretty damn good. I believe in the Uther team. I think it's going to be Oxygen. But as usual, it's I don't think it's like a clear draw victory here or anything like that. It's coming down to execution.
And there's so much execution, especially with Mason Blaze on the Greymane, or even Nick once again on the Genji and Hazuabs. He's not going to be on the Hanzo, but he is well known for his Lunara as well. One of the few Lunara players we saw using Thornwood Vines, I believe it was last season, and it caught a lot more. It caught a lot more traction because of the level 4 and 7 you see, and then at level 20 you have the upgrade on Lunara's base vision is increased, but you also have the stacking. The stacking really helps that level 4 and 7 because of the Noxious Blossom and the Blossom Swell getting that burst damage. But all of that has to kind of, as we said, you have to execute. You have to be able to execute in these moments. And just a little fun fact, as always, I like to bring up on these maps, Sky Temple, the first 2 objective phases are standard. Top and mid for the first, and then for the second objective phase, it's a single temple in the bottom.
I like I like the Lunara build that HeroesHearth has been running. I tried Lunara again with his build, the upgraded Thornwood Vine and the Q build, and it's the first time I won with her in like many games. It could be a coincidence.
It's shockingly like strong. Like when you you get that dot on someone with all the stacks, you're like, oh my god, goodbye to your health bar, my friend.
Yeah, I started singing some Poison spontaneously.
Oh man,
that shit was lit. Haben running away with 222 health. Very close there. As Oxygen pushes back the Bruiser camp. Both Bruiser camps took a lot of damage. Really good job by both teams. I was curious to see where WildHeart was going to go with the 144 Bruiser cap. Turns out both teams captured it really early. Especially more early than we usually see in Storm League. And then you push with it, right? You don't just send and forget. You push with that. And both teams did. So two unstoppable forces met each other. Turns out they were stoppable. Now let's see. Oh, nice interrupt on the jet propulsion, but it was an interrupt prematurely, so it didn't get stopped halfway. Still at the cooldown. Copen was able to get away. Now WildHeart very clearly prioritizing top temple, allowing Hager to double soak, and he is. And he's pushing mid lane right now. And he's clearing bottom. So a top prioritization. Nick jumps in still as E can get away, looking for an angle to get a lot of damage through people, but Uther gets focused once again. Now the Uther he was here, that's going to keep Copen alive, and Nick unable to really get a kill there in this 3 versus 4.
This is looking really good to the side of WildHeart at the start with the double kill they've found so far into Uther. Do you want to get your thoughts here, Grubby, on the Hogger build? Because I feel like this is not like the least common build. Least common isn't the right term because I think there's a lot of variety with Hogger builds, but I feel like we don't see this one that much. Bad Benny! Oh my god!
How do you like that build?
How do you like that build? Dang!
Damn, even gave a Master Assassin stack to Ivy Things as they go for Copen.
You don't have Ardent Defender this time.
Wow. 4 kills for WildHeart. They angry, Bahamut. They angry. But yeah, interesting Hogger build. Level 1 and 4 are pretty standard. They're the most common these days. We see some variations, yes. But most commonly like this. Level 7 usually Dynamite split. And sometimes we see seeing red combined with the level 4 auto attack talent. That also gives a bigger damage and range loot horde. But usually not like this. Garbage Fire at 7. Synergizes with level 1 loot horde. This one was not taken. It also synergizes with Horde Bolt. I'm hard pressed to see a Garbage Fire coming out, which by the way is loot horde does damage and slows around itself. Just so you know. I'm hard pressed to see it without Horde Bolt. So
that makes a lot of sense.
I'm thinking we're not gonna see Shockwave coming out here. It's gonna be Horde Bolt, then you've got 2 loot hordes, both of which burn and slow. It's strong escape. It's strong counter engage. You can put a loot horde next to a cocoon, which is basically extra damage ticks, right? It burns a cocoon quicker, so I could see this happening.
Oh, we're about to get into that 10 talent tier range for the side of WildHeart. First, Siege Giants in bottom lane will be kind of just cleared out by both sides. Zergling with more clear into top lane, and I love the Shockwave paired into the
Shockwave
Blessed Shield, and that's why I'm stuttering on my own words because I'm just like, all right, we got a Blessed Shield plus the Shockwave. I think these synergize really well because you can set one up for the other, and then Greymane went in for go for the throat, so he is looking to just slice and dice. And Commandeer Odin from Ivy Tings, pretty common. We have seen Draken Laser Drill from time to time, but this doesn't feel like a Draken map. Like maybe if it was Infernal Shrines, we could see Draken Laser Drill. A lot of good control around the objective phases with that. As a lot of damage gets thrown onto Bad Benny, he's forced to burrow charge away. Overall, in bottom lane, things are opened up, but this is big because bottom lane Temple will shoot onto bottom lane structures first. And WildHeart, they could step onto that in the next 9 seconds.
They're leaving.
Bye-bye.
They're showing mid with 3. Rhaegar's missing. Hogger just took camp. So WildHeart has just announced their position with every single member that matters outside of Rhaegar, right? They all showed mid. And Uther's standing there in the woodworks. He's got D-Storm. Uther was revealed. He jumps in. He takes a lot of damage from Tychus.
I'm looking at Haben right now, who's getting chunked a little bit from HoTS. Yasu just going to be able to help clear out the wave. We have Anubarak getting tempo shots. Top lane has 2 camps matching, and I'll check on that one later because Hogger's making the rotation down. I think he might have been seen in the mid wave. Not 100%, but actually it doesn't even matter because Lunara's got a Wisp in the bush, so Zergling is going to be seen in this lane. We've got some wave clear, no 13s yet. Look at Yasu on the left side of our screen. He's looking for that Divine Storm setup as well as the stun. Ivy's going to step in. Yasu drops the stun. Where's the Divine Storm? I think it might have been interrupted.
No, he just dies.
Goes
No
down. Oh no! He was positioned. Yasu was trying to position for this massive AoE stun, but it does not go his way as Greymane goes for the throat and finds the kill. There's another dive from... oh, wait, hold on. Bless Shield. The fight continues. Dash in from Ivy. Nick is around 50%. He's the only one of real concern right now.
I gotta say, man, I really expected to see the D-Shields coming out with Genji. And while D-Storm can be cool, nice cleanse there on Mason Blaze, keeping him alive. While D-Storm can be cool, every single time Yasu tried to go with a creative engage from an unexpected angle, it's been absolutely shut down by WildHeart. They don't even have that much CC. It's just Shockwave, Condemn, Bless Shield. That's pretty much it. For the rest, it's just damage. Hogger, Hogger steps up. Uther steps up. Yasu, he's like, hey, I'm here. They're like, yeah, you're dead. Like, he couldn't even cast D-Storm.
Lunara will show that she's getting vision in the center of the map, and Blaze is showing in the top lane, so WildHeart knows they can go for this camp steal. Now, if Nick gets scouted out, it's a little scary. He does have a lot of mobility, as you see the Swift Strike already. Hogger getting chunked to around 50%, finds a nice kind of W-shaped bounce out of the mid lane off that top and mid wall. Or bottom wall, and more pressure through bottom. That camp in top lane did take down the keep front gate. I was checking on that. That's why Blaze had to go into top lane to clear things out. Lunara getting the vision for the rotations. As another objective phase, a double tempo phase will be coming up here pretty soon. I think WildHeart should be able to take down the bottom lane fort.
Yeah, they're working on it. A grenade here, a grenade there. That's all they need. Clear the wave, stick around, kill bottom fort. Now, their own bottom fort has seen better days as well. It's not really, like, if it was a car, it would not be legal to drive that thing anymore. That's the situation we're at right now. Midford, half as well. Structurally, small lead for Oxygen. A small lead here for WildHeart. But it's nothing too crazy. Nothing that you can't come back from. So if Oxygen is going to turn it, it might be when Uther finally gets that level 1 quest done. That Holy Radiance is going to have him have a half-second longer armor. It won't help against Tychus' minigun, but it will help against everything else.
If you're wondering why Genji's health, just dropped to about 50% while we were looking at that mid-engagement, Hogger popped the shockwave, got the staggering blow, and he dropped that Genji very low. You actually have 45 seconds still on the shockwave. I immediately checked it. I'm like, how the heck did Hogger lock down a Genji for that long? A nice utilization of that heroic. Not the longest cooldown. I do also want to point out Haben just now has that level 13, the Blessed Hammers, which was buffed a while ago, because not only is it an active, but every third basic attack against enemy heroes will summon those hammers. So long engagements allow him to utilize that as a scouting tool, and that's what you're seeing in the bush, just angling those spinning hammers to scout if the enemy was waiting for any... waiting in the bush right there as I was looking at this Anubarak on the minimap. Bad Benny trying to back away, getting chunked, but hopefully he can back away. I think he's got sustained damage on him.
And they go for the boss, WildHeart. They're going to be able to pop it real fast as well. Greymane and Rhaegar, of their respective role, are some of the fastest racers against the boss in the game. And yet, Oxygen shows up. Copen reveals vision. Oxygen, waiting in the woodworks here. Oh, big shockwave on Lunara. She gets cleansed. Counter engage on Hogger. He's got Pommel active. HoTS goes around the top side. He's low, but he wants to help. He wants to contribute. Bad Benny drops low. D-Storm comes in. Bunker saving people, but they are low. When they come out, Bad Benny cannot follow up. A close fight. Narrowly won by WildHeart. No victims, though.
And WildHeart, with 5 kills over the 0 of Oxygen Esports, will hit 16 talent tier. Genji going in to poke onto Haven. Still, actually, the Shuriken Mastery was already finished out. Zergling, gonna go check the bush, see where the Wisp was, and it does expire. Zergling knows this expires, or at least it was moved out, because that little red reticle over their name did disappear. And with the Anubarak backing away, and with the camp being triggered in top, and as well as Blaze and Anubarak showing on the minimap, this is going to be WildHeart Esports grabbing a boss, grabbing Siege Giants. Next objective phase will be mid and bottom. Ooh, things are getting tense for the side of Oxygen Esports. WildHeart really putting the pressure on in game number 2 here.
They really are. And now they've got the boss, and they're pushing in with it. They've got a siege cap as well. Odin is available. I could see this keep falling, and maybe more if they get any kills at all. Genji jumps in, deflect. He gets stunned by the boss on the escape. Blast shield. Genji playing with fire.
Big burst of heal onto Nick as the keep starts taking damage from this boss, which has dropped to around 50%. Over in the top lane on our minimap, we can see that the bruiser camp does arrive in top and does get the fort right there. But in bottom lane, a huge divine storm. There's the ancestor heal. Might have been under the wrong target. Realistically, I think Tychus was already at full HP, and Copen has to jet propulsion away. The keep in bottom lane will survive around, God, Grubby, I don't know if you've got the percent math on that one, but it's got to be around a couple percent.
I'm going to check for you, friend.
Thank you.
Let's see.
I appreciate you doing the math for me.
Oh, no!
Oh, it's gone. GG.
And it's gone.
So
it was like 1.4%.
Oh my God! So very, very low. But the note right there, I said it earlier in the game, and I want to point out again that bottom lane temple being prioritized by Hogger. They knew that those bottom shots would go to the bottom lane keep, so it was guaranteed. Now this mid lane altar, you can see right there on your minimap, is going to be focusing onto mid lane. So right now, WildHeart finding the major advantage in this temple trade, as I think there's a call in the rotation or something, but the intuition from Hogger right now, look at this. He knows to get off the point. He knows he has to get out of there. Earth Grasp Totem was attempted. Shockwave, but a nice cleanse from Uther to delay out any sort of CC onto Bad Benny, but I don't think it really matters. Cocoon to try and save the moment. Greymane goes in. He's trying to find the kill, but he can't. Yasu. Oh my God, Bad Benny, I can't believe he lived.
D-Storm is back up, he steps forward! D-Shield on a single target, they saw it coming, they dodged it, it was telegraphed, the chase continues. Bad Benny with the Hearthstone, he has to come here and scramble the defense of the bottom lane. But right now, let's see, temples, how much is left? You can see it in that bottom right, those gray avatars, that little gray bar that's filled in, that's how much is left. It's not much, but it is worth it. WildHeart picks up a couple of bottom laser shots, it's about 12 shots or so. Each one doing about 700 damage per hit. A keep has 20k health, so it takes how many hits, Bahamut?
You asked the wrong guy on that one, okay?
29 hits. So picking up 12 shots there is really not bad. And then a couple of shots from the center as well. That's more than half health of the keep. Oxygen is up against it. Odin comes up again. WildHeart looking to get 2 keeps here.
So a keep to maybe fall through the top lane. There's going to be a huge shockwave onto the enemy. No 20 talents here for either side, as that's a lot of damage onto Copen, who drops the bunker down. Next strike from Genji will come through. A lot of bunker players, a bunker boys, if you will, for the side of Oxygen, chasing in further. Oxygen, they want something to happen here. They want to try and make a fight and a kill happen, because in the next half level, WildHeart will have that 20 talent tier advantage. Nick and friends, they want something, but they just are not going to be given that opportunity. It seems like WildHeart deny, and back away.
Wonder if Greymane has that voice line, denied. Because that's what just happened here. Now, with that chance going away like snow before the sun, Oxygen pulls back and waits for better weather. They have to wait for that single temple phase to come back momentarily. The boss also back in 1 minute and 8 seconds from now. 2 keeps, severely hurt. Odin cooldown coming back in 30. Perhaps time to turn on the pressure again for WildHeart? Maybe now? It's a good time to jump into WildHeart comms.
In we go.
We can slow siege top.
I'm over here.
Yeah, slow siege top. I'll have Odin, or we can, top.
Well, this guaranteed 20. Just play 20s, and we just play for temples. I don't know. We can
careful when they take 20 though.
We can take it.
We can do a little bit. I'm not Odining for this.
Can we get mid or no? You don't want it?
I can get mid in a second. This is hard to push into though. I think we just grab our easies and grab temple.
It's a little bit there.
Grab double easies. We just get the shots, as many shots as possible. This will get both keeps, and then they have to fight us.
Okay.
And I'll have Odin for this fight.
Genji's also bottom, so they're all gonna walk through like here.
Just don't get like 4-man D-stormed, and there's no way to lose, I think.
Blaze is split from them, by the way.
I can slow him right here. If we want.
Going?
Yeah, I'm looking.
That's fine.
Oh!
Haven's not with.
I have spell armor. It's fine.
Big stun.
Nice.
I'm gonna die for sure.
I'm gonna no control this.
I'm Odining now. Help weary.
I'm out. I'm fine.
Okay.
Look at Blaze.
With the res.
Kill him.
Can we finish kills? Back up. Oh. I think that's it. Haven, back up.
That's it. Careful, Haven.
Okay,
Oh, go.
We can play. Okay. We try. Okay.
Yeah.
We can just boss end.
Yeah.
I'm trying to walk away.
You're fine. Just
no one die on the straggle. Whatever thing.
They're still.
Okay.
Come.
It's fine. Take Genji. Nice.
You score?
Can you score?
Yeah. Now we core.
Core shots. Wait, watch me. I have an E right here.
I've told him 5.
We probably play 1 kill.
I told him here. Told him.
We're cucked.
Yeah. After this.
Can we finish this?
Just play right side. Okay, we finish now. Finish. Place. Nice. Core now.
Okay.
Just ignore him.
Push it.
Easy dub.
And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, WildHeart Esports will be able to take map number 2 in our second best of 5 of the day. It's no quick 2-0s today for Oxygen. They're going to have to earn this victory in this series up against WildHeart. And you know, we heard some really good comms at the end of there from WildHeart. Really good call there, Grubby, for us to go in. And I really love also... I love that they're trying to pull Haben back, and Haben's just like, murder, and he's just like running into the enemy team's face. I absolutely love that. Of course, Justing, let's get you back in here. Let's get your thoughts on Sky Temple.
So I think overall, especially coming off of that game, but I think that WildHeart does just look like the better team right now. I think the game 1 was kind of, to my suspicions, mostly a draft issue, where they had the Zagara and the Rexar that are sort of just food for the enemy on a big map like Garden. This game, with Zergling and in particular on the Hogger, he's my MVP. Zergling and IBTings were in close contention for the MVP, from my perspective. We saw Zergling literally solo killing Bad Benny mid in middle there, much more than he did on Rexar. We saw him bullying Nick on the Genji around the top objective too. There was a lot of like small interactions between heroes that were extremely important, like that one. Zergling willing to use his shockwave just to half-shot the Genji so that there's no one who can come top to contest him on the shots. If he doesn't use it in that moment, this was the solo kill on Bad Benny, by the way, by Zergling. He interrupts his E just in time to get that last hit with the auto attack. Well played by Zergling, knowing his limits on the hero. And then just, WildHeart played the macro better in the last game as well. It's just that once they got to late game, they couldn't fight anymore. And here, they don't even need to use Bless Shield to kill the Uther. The Condemn is enough CC to stop the Uther from getting the D Shield off. And I really loved having IBTings on the Tychus when we listened to their comms too. He knew when he was safe, when he was okay to be engaged on with his spell armor and the help from Weary Day. It was really cool to see in the early game IBTings and Mason Blaze, which I talked about in the last week as potentially, since we are in a mostly double ranged heavy meta, it's a lot less melees. The Flex is typically playing at secondary ranged in a lot of these compositions. That's just the most straightforward meta way to play the game right now. I think Mason Blaze and IBTings might be the best combo, and potentially even individually the best duo of ranged, even individually. So in the early game, to see them just holding hands through the early game so that neither of them could be a target. You have a Nubarak and Genji who can't even go on them. This was just nuts by Zergling as well to be able to turn that. Everyone on the side of WildHeart playing this fight nearly perfectly. We heard in comms Weird thinking he was going to go down, but he didn't. Everyone peeling for each other extremely well. The Uther not really working out for Yasu. We had the D-Storm that got very little effect. Even when it hit, there wasn't really the follow-up needed to get kills off of it. And I loved watching WildHeart play this style of composition where I think their draft was a lot better, and we got to see IBTings on the Tychus and Greymane played by Mason Blaze just really thriving. Even in the early game against the Anubarak and the Genji, they were holding hands basically, and you couldn't... they were just a walking meat grinder. If anyone tried to get close to them, they would just get shredded down by Mason Blaze and IBTings. They weren't running away from the Genji. They were like, "Oh, you want to fight me? Okay." And they just stood there, and IBTings would just stand there and just minigun him down. So it was really cool to see. I think this style for them makes a lot more sense, is a lot better. Having their ranged on, normal ranged heroes, it looked very good. And yeah, I'm excited to see them progress through the rest of the series.
It was a great map, and of course, Grubby, did you have any takeaways from that map as well, or any thoughts?
I really loved seeing Mason Blaze move on Greymane. I agree 100%. I think IBTings and Mason Blaze looked like a really deadly duo. I think Greymane's a little harder to play. And so like seeing him being that mobile, knowing when he can push it in, was such a joy to witness. The way that they punish Yasu's Uther was particularly inspiring. This goes for the whole team. The kind of hero that you don't want to kill because he can give free heals to ally. That's level 1 thinking. Level 2 is just do it anyway. And they did. Oh, great counterplay against Uther. They did not let him play the game.
And this series, it's one that could go the distance. We are going to be sitting 1-1 in our score for WildHeart versus Oxygen Esports. We're going to take a short little break here. In that break, I want you all to do one important thing. I want you to hit exclamation point prize pool, because your support, we're over $4,500 for the HeroesCCL. We're actually at $4,686.69 because of your nice generosity. So if you'd like to push that prize pool a little bit further, I have said that if we hit 6K this weekend, I'll bring Bandit on stream. We'll get him a treat as well. So if you'd like to support HeroesCCL, if you'd like to support giving treats to animals, you can go ahead and hit exclamation point prize pool in chat. Get yourself over to the Matcherino if you'd like to donate. But as I said, we're going to take a short little break. When we come back, we're going to go to map number 3 of WildHeart versus Oxygen Esports. Don't go anywhere. This is HeroesCCL presented by Wisdom. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, in Murloc Mains to HeroesCCL presented by Wisdom. My name is Bahamut, joined by Justing and Grubby, and we are getting into map number 3 of WildHeart Esports versus Oxygen Esports. And I gotta gauge the temperature for both of you. Grubby, how you feeling about this series here? 1-1. Do you feel like the series could go the distance? Because I'm feeling like we could get to a game 5 between both these teams.
Yeah. I think this was a slightly more dominant victory here by WildHeart than what Oxygen had in game number 1. But still, Oxygen won game number 1 with 10-3 in kills. So overall, they both showed a pretty good victory here, and it could go the distance. But it really comes down to draft and execution. Both teams are playing really good. What I am happy about is that we are not going to have a 3-0, that both teams are playing really well. I'm sure they're thinking hard about their next move.
Well, we'll actually, I'll get Justing's temperature gauge as well, because I want to find out where we're going to for map number 3 in the second best of 3 of the day. And there's some, it's going to be an interesting map because, well, Justing, it's going to be Oxygen, the losing side, opting for map pick this time, and they're choosing to take us to Cursed Hollow. So knowing that we're going to Cursed Hollow, I ask you the same question I asked Grubby. Where are you at? What kind of excitement levels are you at in this series?
I'm very excited for this. I'm going to enjoy watching WildHeart, especially when it looks like they're doing well. They, as of right now, if I could swap them and Granite in my standings, in my power rankings, I think I would. WildHeart really looks very strong to me. The game 1 really feel like was a massive draft blunder by WildHeart after seeing the way the game played out with, the squishy members not being able to step forward at all. I think that for them to make that game so competitive after the early game really just shows a lot of strength in both their shot calling and as well as their individual micro. We heard in the comms too a lot from IBTings in that last game, and we've been hearing that a lot, is he kind of controls the tempo of the fights, and that's very new, especially for IBTings. He didn't even have a mic before, so the amount of impact that he has in the comms now when he's not typing in the middle of the game is pretty insane. So yeah, excited to see how the series progresses.
So last game he was like, I'm not Odining for this keep, by the way. We just take the temples. I'm not Odining for this. And then like in the past when he had no mic, he'd be like muttering to himself, I'm not Odining for this. And then everyone's like spam pinging him, where's your Odin, bro? Yeah, I can see how having a mic in competitive would be an advantage, Justin.
Especially when it was such a force in the comms. It's weird to me to be able to go that long without a mic when that's what it sounds like when he has it. Like he's important in the comms, you can tell.
Yeah, it's a lot of him and Zergling. Whenever we jump to those comms, those are the two voices you're hearing. The very calm voice being IBTings, which is kind of surprising with like how aggressive he actually can get into some of these games, and Zergling just kind of matching with some of the knowledges I was mentioning in the previous game. But of course, we're flying through our Cursed Hollow draft. We got a Joanna Lucio ban, Junkrat of course, and a Brightwing ban. So we'll see what Yasu gets put on. But of course, what are we gonna get for this first pick here, Justing?
Blaze and Hogger are both available, so you'd expect if they find them both to be equal to forego either and to pick another priority pick. So that's kind of their big strong point here. Both the Junkrat and the Lucy are banned, so we'd find out now if they heavily prioritize either Blaze or Hogger over the other. I would expect it would be neither. It is the Sylvanas, and then likely they'll be trading over the Blaze and the Hogger and being happy with either one.
Okay.
Could you do both?
Yeah.
Could you go Blaze Hogger? Is that crazy?
You could, but your draft would be super weird. You'd have to either play like main tank Blaze or play some strange like double support thing. It's definitely doable, but I think that like the draft theory hasn't made it that far down the rabbit hole yet with the way the games are.
Yes.
Hasn't been needed yet.
Rhaegar, Hogger, not a bad start for the side of Oxygen. I believe that was the exact same first two picks for WildHeart in the last map, right, Grubby? Trying to remember.
Very possibly.
It actually was. I have this. I have the
yeah.
screenshot for it. So yeah, it was Hogger and Rhaegar in the first 2 picks for the side of WildHeart. So
Yes, it was.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But anyways, thoughts on even what we're seeing right here with the Blaze?
Yep. Blaze predicted. Murden, just a solid dude, right? Together with Janna. The least situational tank together with Janna, probably. Diablo having some weaknesses, some major strengths. Anubarak has some weaknesses, but Murden's just a dude. You can just take him anytime.
He's just a good dude. You can take any time. But I will say this: I kind of love that anyone who plays up against Oxygen, the 3rd ban is being eaten up by a hammer. Because I feel like this is last week. This happened as well. So it's like, is this going to be the motif for the whole season? Is it just going to be 3rd hammer ban against Oxygen always? I wonder if it feels like such a win in draft. Sorry, that's what I want to get at.
Yeah, like if every night you spend like 5 minutes searching under the bed for the monster and it's literally never there, wouldn't you stop looking at some point and just have a good sound sleep without wasting time? But that's when they strike in it. Like, is Nick like, I'm not even gonna take it, or is he like, yeah, you better?
I feel like it's the latter of the two. I feel like it's every time he gets that target ban, he's like, yeah, you better ban that against me. I mean, it's like Yasuo on Lucio. It's probably the same thing, but I'm sure, Justin, you have some thoughts on the draft that has unfolded in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it's very strange to see the Tyrael here picked up, as you had mentioned that Diablo has another solid dude to take for the tank position. I think the Diablo would have been really good with the Hogger and the Rhaegar having the Ancestral for him during the Flame Breath, but a lot of resources going into the boss control. We could potentially see a Tracer coming out. That was sort of the expectation here with them taking that Tyrael, but I think it was a bit greedy by Oxygen if they wanted the Tracer to not just take the Tracer with the Tyrael here. We do see the Malfurion picked up by WildHeart, which is a little bit strange, but I guess Weary Day feels confident having that peel, or having that peel between the Muradin and the Blaze. We do see the Imperious come out, which we did see this in week 1 on Garden, played by Nick. He had the percent damage. It was into a lot of chonky frontliners like we have here with the Muradin and the Blaze. So we'll see if it's the same type of situation. There's a little bit more CC this time. When he played it in the last game, there was really very little CC to interrupt him, and he was kind of able to freely go in for spears. That was when they had that kidnap composition with the Brightwing, and they had a bunch of stuff to combo with it and set it up. This time, there's not a whole lot of setup, so it might be a little bit more difficult to actually get those spears to land. But if they do hit, you have a lot of good percent damage onto the front line, with Muradin and Blaze being extremely tanky. The Cassia is also a little bit strange, especially pairing that with the Malf. They're kind of both, to some extent, targets to be looked at for the other side. It's kind of a weird comp. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about everything for Oxygen. Their comp is okay in teamfights, but it might struggle a little bit in between the teamfights. And on the side of WildHeart, they've got another pretty solid front-to-back composition where they should really thrive. I'm mostly worried about Weary Day getting dove on the Malf. Malf seems like it could be a bit of a detriment, so I'll be keeping my eyes on Weary.
Well, we'll see if Haben can get that peel done, as you were describing earlier, and keep their allies alive. But let's go ahead and introduce these teams, and we can talk further about the drafts, as we've got Zergling on the Blaze, IB Tings on the Cassia, Weary Day on the Malfurion, Haben on the Muradin, and Mason Blaze on the Sylvanas. Over on the side of Oxygen Esports, we're looking at Hazuabs on the Hanzo, Copen on the Hogger, Nick on the Imperious, Yasu on the Rhaegar, and Bad Benny on the Tyrael. I'm leaning into a WildHeart win. They do have this kidnap thing that they did in Garden of Terror last week, but the difference is here, Grubby, last week they had a Brightwing with Emerald Winds to push back the enemy. Here, all they've got to deny the enemy from stepping forward is a staggering blow, maybe an arrow from Hanzo, maybe a Holy Ground from Tyrael. I don't feel like there's enough for Oxygen to make the same plays as they did last week. I'm leaning into a WildHeart win, but of course, what are your thoughts on the drafts and anything in between?
Yeah, I think Hanzo's arrow shouldn't be underestimated since it comes from Hazu. That's a strong counter engage, and I think that's the major one. I do get what you're saying here. There isn't that Emerald Wind this time. I did just play with Nick as well in Storm League. He was also Imperious on Cursed Hollow. I was tank. It didn't go too well for me. He was side lane. He hit a lot of those spears. And he went for the Angelic Armaments build, not the Abduct. Perhaps practicing it for such a moment as this, or perhaps a situational pick, or just for fun in that moment. We'll see. But we have Haben here coming in and finding a very low HP Hogger who can't stop, won't stop spinning.
Well, there's the end of the spin, but Haben says, the enemy might rotate on me, so I'm going to rotate actually onto Imperious in the top lane. Imperious, a little out, but I think he's fine. He's actually playing by the front gate a lot closer than I anticipated, but already the sidewalls are gone here. There's a Celestial Charge onto IB Tings, a slowing totem from Rhaegar as well, but it's not going to be enough to land a kill. I do want to talk about the level 1 for Imperius as well. He did not go for the percent like we often do see. It's going to be Consuming Flame, which is basically that Solarian Flame, that line he draws on the ground. Deals additional damage by 125%. It slows for 15%. You also get a little mana restore as well. So I wonder if this pickup is mostly for that side laning. I personally love that percent-based healing to really, or percent-based damage to chunk into the enemy, but it's not going to be the case now, and we'll have to see how this build evolves. I just want to point that level 1 out right there.
Yeah. And the slow is 15% extra.
Oh, extra,
so on top of the 40% baseline, that pretty much makes it almost Earthquake level in its slow. Like Madara mentioned, the pinning shot from Nova was 60%. This one's 55%. There's a very high order of slows. And yeah, it's good for offlaning. It's good when you're needing to clear some waves. Does like 400 or 500 damage on the wave, so, well, maybe a little bit less. I just saw it. Didn't look like that much.
It still is a way to buff up your damage, which I think, talking to a lot of Imperius players, I think that's one of the things that as a solo laner, his wave clear isn't the strongest. He can have the Holy Fever or Fever, I forget the pronunciation properly. Fervor, it is Fervor, okay. I said Fever and I was like, that might not be right. Regardless, when you get that level 7, that does offer up some more wave clear, but until level 7, he does feel like he struggles a little bit in that department. But right now, there's a Celestial Charge onto Haben. Bad Benny is going to be looking for the channel, throws the Eldrune's Might over the wall to get the body blocking onto IB Tings, who's taking a lot of damage and trying to back away. The healing from Malfurion is over time, and IB Tings is getting some healing,
my God.
But it's not enough. First blood goes over to the side of Oxygen Esports as Hazuabs has the channel.
Yeah, it looked like Weary Day was almost going to be able to do it. Cassia still with 30 armor, but so slowed and so hard to get away.
Oh no.
There is that melee skewer shish kebab from Imperius. A nice job there trying to stop Haben to get away. But you know, really, giving up that one tribute, even losing Cassia, it's fine. A lot of the mid towers were damaged by Sylvanas. And meanwhile, Blaze, Zergling, he killed the entire bottom wall during that. Definitely worth a tribute, I would say. That's 2.5 towers or a tribute.
It feels very reminiscent of that Garden Terror map where Oxygen wants to play the micro in the sense that they want to go for these rotations, these kills, and looking for dives. Whereas, WildHeart, they are playing some of those team fights, but they're playing more macro. They're playing the map, if you will, in the terminology. And as you had mentioned, they're already getting some structural value. They're whittling down some of these structures. If a curse goes over the side of WildHeart, they can really find a ton of value. But this is our second objective. It is going to spawn on the bottom right, which is going to be positionally in favor of Oxygen Esports. And I think WildHeart recognizes this. Zergling and Mason Blaze in top lane. They might be able to take down the fort. Bad Benny and Copen looking to slow things down. Sylvanas gets the Haunting Wave out. I'm looking at the minimap. Muradin, Haben is on that position to get one stun onto Rhaegar. And he will not. Yes, he will. He doesn't actually, because of Nick with the Celestial Charge. Here comes that heavy impact, that 80% slow from the level 7 of the Muradin. It's a 1.5 second slow, but Haben is going to get Celestial Charge. Another kill to the members of Oxygen, but WildHeart do find the kills, let me say with an S, the double kill onto Hanzo and Rhaegar. Bad Benny trying to speed boost his way out of this big Celestial Charge through mid. Cassia comes in with the fend, the black arrows from Mason Blaze to allow the allies to back away, and that mid lane fort front gate does start to go down.
That sounded like this song. Start to go down. There's a song like that. If I knew the name, it would be funnier. Now I feel like but you had a rhythm in what you were saying. Beautiful melody. Let's take a look at the replay of that fight just now, because you had Hanzo. He's actually jumping after the Muradin. Look at that. Haben trying to get away. Hanzo, very daring jump over. Gets a really nice scatter there. But Blaze comes in from the side. Ooh, more than he bargained for. Rhaegar trying to save him is now in a terrible spot. Yasuo trying to run away. That didn't work out. Zergling with the massive flank value. They got a couple of kills out there. But still, the tribute went to Oxygen, despite all that. So, again, Oxygen getting a tribute, even though they lost a few other things. Whoa. Pepega aim coming in hot here. Kind of just trying to zone for what they thought is going to be a boss invade. Bad Benny running away, still got Sanctification. He's low.
Oxygen seemed, at least, we'll talk about that in a second, because Zergling pops the Pyromania, goes in for the Jet Propulsion. Here comes the Fen from Ivy Tings, dropping the Ball Lightning. As Hogger spins through and away, he actually spreads the Ball Lightning. Hogger just assisted in that kill on Rhaegar, and maybe even on the kill on Tyrael, because he just shared that Ball Lightning, and that's a lockdown onto the tower. HoTS gets hit with a Stormbolt. You going nowhere, as that was a really good haunting wave from Mason Blaze, either just to back away, but also, in case Hanzo had the agility over the wall, the Haunting Wave was there, and that would have been a solidified kill. Regardless, a massive triple kill to the side of WildHeart Esports. They may lose their top lane. No, it's going to be saved. Saved with... Now, this time, I think you can get that percent for us, Grubby, but that top lane fort's going to be sitting around 1-2%.
Yeah, let's check. Give me some time. I will crunch the numbers, and I'll get back to you next week.
Grubby has to get his abacus out Grubby does not like to use a calculator. He's an old-fashioned man, so he uses his abacus.
It's, yeah, let me just put this little marble to the side here, this little ring, this honey loop to the left, and 3.88%, yes.
Well, that doesn't matter anymore, because Rhaegar just took it down.
I'm throwing the abacus out the window. The fort is dead.
Oh, wasn't that a gift from Logan? That's unfortunate. That's very mean. Here comes another Jet Propulsion. Mind Control, but I believe there was a Sanctification or something. No, it was cleansed out. Sanctification's on a 10-second cooldown. Another Jet Propulsion onto the face of Nick and Copen. There's a lot of damage being spread. A nice Stormbolt from Haben. And it just feels like impossible for Oxygen to step forward in these moments. Like, anytime Oxygen tries to do something, they're met with just a wall of CC or a wall of just... CC, actually, that's probably the best thing to put it out.
Big engage here on Copen. He's trying to get away. Staggering blow. Get away from me, you guys. In comes the counter arrow. There's a shockwave. Blaze is so low. Once he comes out, Zergling, he is going to be so dead.
Hanzo,
so dead.
He wants the kill. Ball Lightning spreads to a few, but they don't care on the side of Oxygen. They care about murder. They care about late game experience. And you know what else this team cares about? As they have 2 out of 3 curse points here. No curse available just yet. Not even the 30-second moniker. But what we do have is going to be a boss for bottom lane. And Siege Giants already on the fort front gate. Siege Giants naturally outrange structures. So these will be able to take down the fort front gate. And they might actually, if I'm looking at this correctly on the minimap, it looks like they might already might be starting to put pressure onto the fort, and it is starting to be like that as Hanzo is able to get one more clear onto the wave. 6-4 in our levels. Grubby, you want to jump into do you want to jump into Oxygen comms and hear how they're getting along?
Oh, WildHeart nearly stole the boss there, but it was a big old bait. I did want to jump into those comms, but that kind of caught us unawares, and now I'm not sure it's relevant anymore.
Yeah, with the kill on to Nick, I think exactly that's the case. If we jumped in there, we're just going to hear retreat calls, yeah.
Yeah, run!
Run, get out!
Save your own miserable lives!
But now, Grubby, I want to pose to you the important question in all of this is, what does WildHeart get out of this? They've got a lot of pressure through bottom. Mid's pushed up. Top lane, or pushed against them. Top lane's pushed up for the side of WildHeart. Is this one fort? Or actually, I like this call from WildHeart. Love this call right here.
Yeah, but why curse? Just so they don't get cursed? Because this fort could have gone down with Black Arrow. Right now, the curse value is Sylvanas didn't need to press Black Arrow. This is not very good.
I agree.
For the rest,
Yeah.
This boss still attacks. That's not shut down by the curse. We now got 40 seconds left. It forces Tyrael Hogger to be top. It has done that. It has created space for WildHeart to be center, but Blaze still has to come over here. 30 seconds left. Feels like a deny more than anything, or a mistake. Whoa, big engage by Nick. Ancestral healing is good. Arrow could be better. Haben blocked it. Nick gets the sanctification. Misses his transgression answering ult.
Wrath of Vengeance will be on an 80-second cooldown as he did not connect onto an enemy with that. Bottom lane fort went down. Mid lane fort will fall. And so if we look at the totality of this objective phase, it's a mid fort, it's a bottom fort, and potentially a top fort here. Look at Haben's positioning. He's gonna play it safe. He's gonna be in that bush, anchoring for the team. Boss is up on the top right of our map. We actually just saw him crawling out of the ground, that Grave Golem defender. And now we wait. Haben looking for that dwarf toss over the wall with the heavy impact. There it is. Mind control goes out. Won't connect onto Copen. Celestial charge missing. A lot of abilities thrown. No actual value from either side, as we did a black arrow started by Mason Blaze to start putting pressure onto the fort and allow Haben to try and dive into the back line, as 16s are looming for both sides by maybe an eighth, maybe a quarter of a level.
Want to take that fort down. Murden actually all the way in the back. Wow.
Whoa.
Going with the deep flank. Hogger took a lot of damage. Cleanse was used. Gonna be on the cooldown. It's gonna be on a 60-second cooldown. Now 50. Fort goes down. Oxygen falls back. They're 4 down, but they are 2 tributes up. 2 tributes up. Because of that curse collection by WildHeart, that I'm still wondering if it was the right play. I'm not saying it was definitively wrong.
Oh, sure.
They didn't get much out of it. It could have been a deny just to avoid being up against curse, still needing to defend boss, not having enough people around the curse to buy time, getting a bad fight, or losing the ability to deny that curse. Maybe that's all it was. Haben wants to make sure the boss isn't taken. Got a good piece of information that pretty much everyone is here, so they need to stay near. Mason Blaze doing the camp. It may be known to Oxygen that there would be someone else. Now they know for sure that there would be someone not at the boss. How is WildHeart gonna do this? There's holy ground.
Yeah, WildHeart, you can't steal this. Sanctification as well. There's going to be some CC onto Ibitings, but the bad Benny gets the Ancestral Healing. Haben trying to back away, pops the Avatar. Mind Control connecting onto one. That's the Rhaegar. That's not who you want to be grabbed by a mind control. Mason Blaze went fishing and found himself the doggo, and this is a mid lane to be maybe pushed in. Black arrows available for Mason Blaze. He turns those on, and this is boss pushing in through top, but I don't think WildHeart care too much about that. I think WildHeart, they want to maybe take down a keeper, at least get it low enough where it could be sieged in later, but this is a massive wave through mid, and for anyone wondering, catapults deal 456 damage into structures, as there's a thunderclap, excuse me.
Excuse you?
Please excuse me. Thunderclap.
I didn't think it was that bad. So Bahamut, really interesting player by WildHeart. There's 2 top bosses taken by Oxygen so far, and during the first one, you had HeroesHearth let loose a dragon arrow to zone and protect. It missed, one of the rare Hazu misses, really just to lock down that fort, that boss capture. In this one, WildHeart lacked the tools to steal the boss, and yet they showed up in force. They didn't overcommit to trying to steal it, which would be in vain.
I do like
Maybe they analyzed Oxygen uses a lot of tools when trying to defend the boss. Kind of just letting loose. Sanct, Holy Ground, Arrow. And they used that as an opportunity to use their ults for a post-boss kill. That has given them more than half a keep. The boss didn't get half a keep. Cool play by WildHeart. I want to ask them about it in the winner's interview if they make it there. Did you show up just to get a post-waste ult fight? Another situation like that. They're going to focus on Hogger. Hogger gets blown to smithereens.
Mind control onto Bad Benny. There's going to be the Wrath of Angiris as well with that kidnap. Bad Benny goes down in the top of our screen. Yasu is going to wolf run away. And I think this is going to be a call for boss from the side of WildHeart, which is going to be threatening onto a bottom lane keep. That bottom lane keep has only damage on the gate, like the physical gate, not the 2 towers. And another curse will be coming up. This should go freely to WildHeart, putting them in the 2 out of 3 curse point slot. And I gotta say, this is a hard spot for Oxygen, because you're like, we're so close to a curse, we're so close to a momentum shift, but they just can't win an essential fight. They've won a couple fights here and there, but Oxygen, they're not winning like the key critical fights like we just see here around those bosses, getting some map pressure in their favor. And that right there is Bad Benny respawning half a level for WildHeart to go for their 20s.
Difficult situation for Oxygen. The map is blue. We are going to have a chance to get into their comps for sure, because this isn't the last game no matter what. It's 1-1. Yep. I still want to hear from Oxygen at some point. We haven't heard from them yet. If we jump in now, though, we'd have to stay in all the way from level 18 to 20 in order to see something really going to shape for them. So, not yet.
We will get into those comms as promised, as another tribute spawns in the bottom right of the map. Does Oxygen give this over? Maybe this is the time we jump into those comms to hear what they do. Do they give this and they try and defend down 20s? Do you want to hear from them?
Okay, let's go. If it's good, we may be in for a bit.
Okay, here we go.
Anyone have an idea how to play the fights differently? Like with every fight we lost, I see like Hogger, Rhaegar, Imp on the same spot. Like, so we have
Get
to
ready for Malf. I can't.
I'll try to abstract someone we can try to.
don't bite in with Rhaegar.
Seems like there was a little bit of team communication going on right there, not a lot of interesting information. So we're going to pop back out of those comms, and we're going to get right into this right now because it seems...
Let's get out of there. That was uncomfortable.
It was a little, you could feel the energy very low in that one, but another curse to the side of WildHeart as they press in through this bottom lane. A mind control from Sylvanas will go out, not connecting. Call of the Dark Lady was the level 20, so it's already in a 10-second cooldown. Haben, with the Dwarf Toss, heavy impact, all that good stuff, is going to be trying just to reposition. That's a huge jump repulsion. Sanctification used, Ancestor healing as well. No 20s just yet for the side of Oxygen. They're about to hit it in a moment or two, but Nick... No, Nick saves himself, but can he live? Yes, he actually turns around and gets the kill onto Muradin.
Wow, Nick, his level 20 is the Angiris upgrade. He can't get it. He didn't have the CDR yet. I feel like when he picked it, in comes a no control.
This is not good.
Asked for a way to do the fights differently, and I guess just don't die and kill is the way to do it. HeroesHearth with the big scatter. That's a 3 for 2.
Wait,
now,
Earthcrest?
The core is dying. Hello. Hello.
Winions?
Team?
They want the kill. They need the murder.
Hello, core.
Catapult's
we
dealing
get kills,
662 damage into structures. Oh no!
Oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the comms right now with Bad Benny saying any way that we can do the core defense a little bit differently.
Okay, so let's take stock of what we have right now. We've got a Sylvanas defending for anywhere from 10 to 42 seconds. On the opposing side, we still have a Rhaegar, Tyrael, and a Hanzo. I don't think it's out of the question to go for boss, and I think that's what we're seeing on the minimap right now from the side of Oxygen. I think this is the best call they can make to at least push out top lane. Rhaegar pushes out a little bit of mid. There is still that catapult, but Rhaegar needs to be here. He cannot let anyone get too low and maybe a potential invade from WildHeart comes through. This is very tenuous because it still is anyone's game. If Oxygen finds one good team fight, I you know what? Twitch chat, you can call me a blind optimist, you can call me an idiot, but I still think that Oxygen's in this. They find one good team fight, they go bottom, they end game.
Bottom,
I think it's realistic.
Boss, 1 minute. Meanwhile, we have the backdoor attempt. There's no vision yet for Oxygen. Tyrael? Okay, Bad Benny. In theory, there could be a trap here. He's respecting it, throwing the sword. But now, with that, WildHeart has forced a move to the bottom right. They now get to defend the boss, and it's not even going to get the keep. Now what? Take the Bruiser camp, alleviate pressure. Then Oxygen has to deal with the top siege camp. Their own catapult is helping a bit against it. But Azu is going there. There's a very premium on information, and Oxygen owns very little of it.
Nick gets the clear through mid. We have Haben floating around in the lower half of the map. Now, if Haben... I don't think Haben's going to get caught out here. He's got the safe rotation back into his fort front gate. Honestly, I really do think that if Oxygen can take this curse point and a fight, I think they can do this. I really do think they can. It's not over till a core falls, and right now we got one core at 23% plus some shielding. The other one not as open and available.
Oh!
Yeah?
They're duoing the boss! They're giving away the tribute because it don't matter.
It doesn't really, it doesn't technically matter to them, no. But this is going to take forever.
They're aware of it. Haben is coming in hot. Nick coming in from the side. Haben sees illegal things. He's like, not so fast. Halt.
Weary Day on the left-hand side as well. We've got Haben scouted out by HeroesHearth's scatter arrow. We've got the boss down to about a third of its HP. Holy Ground was already used. That's a way too early. That's an all-in onto Rhaegar. He's going to go down. There's a scatter out as well. The boss is going to be contested. There's a Celestial Charge. Boss goes over to the side of Oxygen. Ball Lightning comes out from the Cassie. It's an infinite Ball Lightning so long as someone can bounce. It can be bounced to. Hager goes down. HeroesHearth gets over the wall. Haben is so low, but Nick is just on an island by himself. And Cassia is done with this game. Cassia wants to end, and she's already going for core through mid lane. I don't think Bad Benny and HeroesHearth can end this on their own. I think there's still way too much, but there was a window, there was an opportunity, and Oxygen went for it. It didn't work out, but I had faith in them. I thought they could turn that around right there. In the end, it's WildHeart who will go up in this series 2-1 against Oxygen Esports. A well-deserved victory for WildHeart. A great game so far. Like a great series so far. That's all I can say is it's a fantastic series between both of these teams. I'm loving what both these teams are bringing to the table. And everyone here is a winner regardless of how wrong I am. In the sense of like you get to see a great game. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yes, very, very aptly put. And this game, it really felt like what Justin was saying is kind of true. WildHeart playing better. It's interesting. That's why Justin was pro, and that's why he's our analyst, right? I mean, I watched game 1 and 2, and I'm like, yeah, they're both on a team, but he's looking beyond the matrix. He sees the machinations behind what we, the sheeple, are being shown, and he's like, I have seen what I need to see. And WildHeart, they look better here. And I bet their comms were a little bit more optimistic.
Oh, we got the one. We've got Justin back with us. Can you break down how that went over to the side of WildHeart? Yeah.
You guys. Thanks, Grubby, for the setup. Okay, so the last game, the main thing that I wanted to really touch on that I think WildHeart did really well that led to them winning that game was the way that they played around boss points, because Oxygen's comp with the Tyrael priority was kind of designed to just take bosses and just fight for them. This was the moment where WildHeart started falling behind, thanks to a huge arrow by HoTS in that choke, into the shockwave, into the spear from Nick. It was all just, although once again, it's all being set up by HoTS on the Hanzo. So I think it has felt so far that in this series, pretty much all the times where Oxygen is behind, their comebacks are being made by HoTS on the Hanzo with those arrows. So looking forward, you might be looking to ban that if you're going up against this team. HoTS, even when they're losing, is looking really good. And this was where it looked like the game was mostly going to be over. Zergling and Haben on the front line aren't quite on the same page, as Haben does end up getting kidnapped, and they end up getting a 23% core defense. At the end of this, after the chases continue, you end up trading 3 for 2, and it's a long series of fights here as the catapults are pushing in with the curse. But 23% core. WildHeart is fortunate to have been able to escape here at the very end. It was a nice mind control by Mason Blaze, mechanically perfect there to be able to escape and peel himself. Really well played by them. And then the way they fight for bosses, watch Yasu in this clip and Haben. Just no hesitation on the rewind, just instantly double stun. You have IBTings playing super aggressively on the Cassia this whole game. I do think that as we see the spear come out, but there's no damage because he doesn't have the level 1% damage that I expected it to be. That was really what I was expecting, so that they had some way to kill the front line of the Blaze and the Muradin. But in this game, the Blaze and the Muradin are mostly invincible. They don't really have enough damage on the side of Oxygen to kill them safely. And then you have better double range in the backline that's going to be constantly just hitting your front line. So if you aren't able to kill their front line, you're really relying on diving into the backline, which Oxygen was not really able to do. It seemed like they were really trying to play around just baiting them onto the boss point and fighting them on the boss point. But WildHeart was too smart for that. They wouldn't actually fight on the boss point. They were perfectly content to give the boss and use the point as kind of an extra team fight asset, which is something that I watched teams do way back in the day. The teams that would win worlds back in the day, like Fnatic and the Korean teams back then, would play around boss objectives completely differently, and WildHeart was doing it the same way. They pretend it's not even there. They just use that as if it's a 6th member in the team fight, and they look for kills instead. Because it doesn't matter if you get the boss if your whole team wipes, which is what we saw in the last fight. Oxygen desperate for the boss, but WildHeart not falling for it. So it's really cool to see a team with that kind of heads-up play and being able to kind of dismantle the enemy's win condition that was playing around those bosses for Oxygen.
I do also love the Cassia play from IBTings. I think the blinds, the ball lightnings, they were very on point. Mason Blaze, I actually still have the stats in front of me, was 10-5. Mason Blaze was not around or didn't participate in one singular kill out of these 16 total kills that the members of WildHeart got. So when I look at MVPs for this, it's a hard toss up between Mason Blaze and IBTings. Zergling had some beautiful jet propulsions with that splash stun as well. Overall, WildHeart is playing on a different level, a better level, if you will, over the side of Oxygen. But it's a best of 5, and we're not done just yet. The winner of this next map either takes us into a map 5 or WildHeart will succeed in taking down Oxygen in week number 2. I'm just looking back. Oxygen had a 3-0 against Chili Mountain last weekend, for anyone wondering what the record of Oxygen currently is. They're 1-0, but they have that 3-0 map record, which, Grubby, that matters so much when we get into the latter half of the round robin or the group place stage, because your map score could be what puts you into slot 3 or slot 4 in the rankings, and that could be all the difference of guaranteeing yourself to a LAN or having to be the gatekeeper for the LAN. And I want to talk about this a little bit further, but first, I want to be able to check out what map we're going to for map number 4. And then, of course, Grubby, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Oh, you knew ahead of me? How'd you know?
I'm in the lobby already.
Oh, wow, okay.
Dragonshire. Yeah, I just wanted to show that. Dragonshire, my favorite map. I love this one a lot. This is going to have to be where Oxygen turns it around. I did just want to echo what you were saying. The stakes have never been higher. Top 3, 100% to go to LAN. If you're top 4, rank 4 to be specific, 50% chance, right? Either you win or you lose your knockout match against whoever comes up from the entire gauntlet. So from 50 to 100%, big deal. Every map matters. This is what we've learned. There have been teams that have tied before in match score. And the map score can just be the decider. Now going up to Dragonshire, here's a map where obviously we won't be seeing Lucio or Junk. Well, almost obviously, Lucio and Junkrat generally are banned here. But you've got Dragonshire. It's very important to have teleportations here. Globals are good. Brightwing, Dahaka would not. Falstad a little bit less important, but Brightwing and Dahaka are really good. It's also another hero that I love here, Muradin. Just able to constantly get that beacon. You can jump over walls to avoid center rotations. Generally, one team can have the stronger 4-man rotation from mid to bot. And the other team then cannot travel like that, and they'll lose a lot of time. This is solved by really not relying overly much on that, and just having someone to park bot, someone to park top. And you've kind of got a mobile 2 to 3 man that sometimes goes bot, sometimes goes mid, sometimes goes to take camps. And it's a very dynamic map rotationally.
I want to reiterate something that you're saying, Grubby, how every map matters and how we've had teams in the past tie up. I'm actually looking back at Season 3 at the end of the group stage. WildHeart, Diamond Hands, Oxygen, and Storm Esports all had a 4-3 record, but that order was all determined by their map score record, with WildHeart having a 14-9 record, Diamond Hands 17-13. So it's one of those things that, like, as I said, like, it really can boil down to, do you get pushed into 3rd or do you get pushed down further into the gauntlet? Regardless, off that topic, I'm so excited about the LAN, but we have to, do all these round robin weekends. Justin, any thoughts here getting into Dragonshire? Grubby had made some really, really good points about macro and micro from these teams, or what we could see draft style from either side.
Yeah, Dragonshire is a map that, from a shot caller's perspective, is completely unique in a sense that one shot caller cannot kind of dictate the pace for the whole team. You can't really micromanage everyone. It's too much to keep track of. So you ideally, this would be a map where, like when we listened to comms last week to 30k, where I had mentioned there were too many chefs in the kitchen. This would be this is the map where you want 5 chefs in the kitchen, because everyone needs to kind of be on their own page, doing their own thing. You need everyone to be very aware of their own job at all times, because everyone needs to be keeping track of all of the enemies because of the number of heroes top and bottom, and then the way that allows you to either capture the objective or not. You need to always be keeping track of everyone, and there's a lot of small 3v3s, 2v2s, 1v1s on this map. It's much more of a skirmish heavy map and much less of a team fight map up until the late game. It's not until level 20s usually where you see teams really start grouping and moving together as a team, and then when you start doing that, there's a lot of vision manipulation that can occur, with the mid lane being such a huge priority to get access to the top and bottom shrines. But this is a map that teams either love to play or just cannot play at all, because it plays completely differently in the shot calling than other teams.
With the vision as you're talking about, is something like a Lunara or a Hanzo any sort of priority, being able to use either the Wisp, Sentinel Wisp, or the Sonic Arrow from Hanzo?
They're definitely good for controlling the little triangle in the middle of the map. That's an important part, the triangle between mid and bottom. The other parts that are important there is having the CC threat pick comps are extremely strong on Dragonshire, because, and also having wave clear for mid is the most important thing for vision. Although it doesn't directly give you vision, having the mid cleared allows you to see where people are rotating if you have minions and they don't. So getting mid priority by clearing the wave is the most important thing, and then being able to get picks with CC is also important, and Muradin facilitates that extremely well, as does Sylvanas with the mind control, whereas on the other side you have Johanna, which is one of the only tanks that can contribute to that mid lane wave clear.
Yeah, Condemn plus any sort of, explosive arrow or anything like that is going to be an easy way to clear waves. We're going to get another ban here. I do want to get Grubby's thoughts as well, but I just wanted this ban to come through. It's going to be a target onto Mason Blaze's Tracer, which saw a lot of really good play in week number 1. But Grubby, any thoughts here for the Dragonshire draft?
It's miserable playing into Tracer as Muradin or Hager. You can pretty much not interact with her, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Also with the skill that we have seen Mason Blaze display on Tracer. There's also... It could have happened that it'd be like Tracer and Abathur, which can be even scarier, but not necessary for Mason Blaze's Tracer.
Ooh, there's that Lunara.
The Lunara Wisp, the Bahamut Lunara Wisp coming in. And Uther, I don't think this is going to be double support. Dragonshire, it leaves you very vulnerable to play double support on Dragonshire. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not usually what you see here because splitting is so necessary so often, sometimes across 4 to 5 different points, but at least 3, and double support suffers in those situations. So what would be the final pick is probably another range damage coming in. Yes, Tassadar! He's so good, I was thinking about him. I just didn't want to say it because I'm afraid of rejection, but like, Tassadar, man.
Hey, no,
the right call.
I agree with you. Tassadar can have some big burst ability. This Uther, we could see Hypercarry Lunar. We could see like a Zarya come out, so you have like healer support sort of deal. But of course, Justing, want to get your thoughts as we're going to get this last pick. But of course, your thoughts on the draft for Dragonshire. It could be the final map of the day if WildHeart can take the victory.
Yeah, WildHeart needs something a little bit more self-sustaining, I think, than a Zarya. I would expect something that can do a little bit better in duels. The Tychus makes sense. It's really hard to trade into Tychus when he has his minigun active, and he's just all around just a solid range DPS, so that makes sense. The main issue with the Zarya is you're not able to be together as often on this map, and they have Blaze and Johanna who already don't really contribute much in skirmishes. The Tassadar is really interesting. It's sort of a snowball-y thing, similar to the Zagara from Game 1 from WildHeart on Garden. I think the Tassadar will be in a similar situation where if they're able to stay ahead and keep the momentum from having that wave clear, most likely for mid lane, and being able to kind of snowball that into picks with the Muradin, with the vision that they have from having the mid lane priority, then it should be good for them. But I think that if they fall behind, they'll experience the same thing that the Zagara and the Rexxar felt in Game 1, where once they lose access to their structures, something like a Tassadar is extremely unsafe on Dragonshire once your forts go down. So it'll either be, I think, just snowball from the side of Oxygen non-stop, or it's going to be kind of a similar situation where things become very difficult when your forts go down. But Oxygen's comp looks a little bit better for brawling outside of the support pick. Weary on Uther, easily the best Uther in the league, so I'm excited to see how this shakes up.
Well, thank you, Justin, as always, for the analysis and breakdown, because as you had mentioned, we got Weary Day on the Uther, Zergling on the Blaze, Mason Blaze to play the Lunara, IBTings on the Tychus, and Haben to play the Johanna. That's your WildHeart Esports roster. Over on the right-hand side, looking to take us to a map number 5 through Dragonshire, Oxygen Esports, as the first pick team here. We've got Hazuabs on the Sylvanas, Nick on the Tassadar, Yasu on the Brightwing, Copen on the Hogger, and Bad Benny on the Muradin. Grubby, it's hard for me to really, oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to hold my thoughts here really quickly because a lot of damage is going in onto Bad Benny. Not enough to really threaten his life. He dwarf tosses in. He's got the level 1 third win, so he's actually no block stacks from the dwarf toss, but he will be having some decent extra healing, higher threshold and all that stuff. I feel like WildHeart can take this in a 3-1, but Yasu does have this Brightwing, which was so good in map number 1. I'm leaning into WildHeart, but it's a very, very, very slight lean as the phase shift from Brightwing is gonna come through onto Copen. Doesn't seem like it actually gave him enough. He gets the bounce out. IBTings is the target. Tries to back away. Muradin with the Stormbolt. The heal from Weary Day is just enough. Zergling should die on the bottom right of our map as he is turned into a crab.
Yeah, he burned to a crisp there with negative polarity from Tassadar. Force Wall actually kept Blaze and Uther away from... I believe it was, let's see, who was it?
IBTings?
Johanna?
Tychus?
Yeah, IBTings, Tychus, yeah. Almost took down that Tychus. Force Wall splitting them there, and finally zapped to a crisp by 20 damage per hit, 4 times per second. Nick really giving it to them with Tassadar. First blood goes to Oxygen. It was actually kind of a close fight. It started off really nice against Copen's Hager, nearly taking him down. A very clutch heal by Yasu with the Brightwing. Saved him, gave him a spin away. Now Bad Benny A little bit of limit testing on the enemy siege camp. Jumps away. And with just a bit of a delay, the siege camp was taken. Now, double lasers will channel. This forces minimum one blue member to the middle to stop it. Meanwhile, there's a big top push going on with Sylvanas. While, keep in mind, mid is forced to be occupied by blue. So now coming in with 3 people top, 1 mid, 1 bot. There's still that pressure of the lasers.
And we have Uther matching the Murden in mid lane as we have IBTings trying to step up into Yasu, who is going to drop quite low in HP. Turns the Tychus into a squirrel. Zergling stepping onto the point as well. Kopen is going to be sitting over here as well. But the bottom lane temple, the Moon Shrine, will go over to the side of WildHeart. Haben on the flank over here, trying to put some pressure into Yasu, who is low, while the camp is pushing into the fort front gate. Weary Day is going to be getting a nice stun to Bad Benny, who throws back the Stormbolt. Haben coming in. Is there a condemn? Is there a slow? There's the condemn. The phase shift coming in from Brightwing as well, and that'll be enough to keep Bad Benny alive. I wonder if we're actually going to be seeing the level 7 Sins Exposed, if I'm not mistaken, is the name of the talent for the Joanna. It's on her Q, which reduces healing. Not 100% on the healing reduction amount specifically.
35.
It is 35. Okay, thank you. But it's still, I think that'd be a good way, because phase shift is such a telegraphed ability. If you can take that Sins Exposed, you might be able to reduce some of that healing coming through, and maybe you can find that kill, because I feel like at least 2 moments so far in this Dragonshire map, Grubby, where there's almost been a kill, but phase shift just barely saves.
True. Could be really, really powerful. Nice dodge by IBTings. Holy God. Nick hits him with the Side Storm, does the force wall, and then people have to escape the force wall, right? You're either going to go left, you're going to go right. It's always obvious where they're going to go. He hits him with the Shockwave. IBTings walks back into the electric fence. This hurts, by the way. I don't know if you've ever tried it as a kid at the pastures, the meadows. It hurts. But he did it, and he dodged the Shockwave. IBTings gets away.
I was that idiot kid who touched the fence and then read the sign after I touched the fence.
I did it after reading it. I don't know what's dumber.
It's equal, but Zergling is gonna be coming in here low, but it feels like a bait. Polymorph Cleanse, Yasu the target. Yasu doesn't have blink heals, doesn't have a way to get out, and that's a kill over the side of WildHeart. We sit 1-1 in kills as the Sun Shrine will go to the side of WildHeart. Moon Shrine still in favor for Oxygen Esports.
That was a kill by Uther, by the way, going in with
nice.
that Holy Shock. Got the QQ build. Only downside of it is the same thing that Rhaegar's Purge suffers from. It doesn't have a separate button for enemies and allies. So now you could theoretically misclick your heal and accidentally hit an enemy. Uther hits his upgrade. He now gets mana every time he Holy Shocks an enemy. Yasu channeling. Haven comes in with the blinds. Got a second charge. Not needed anymore. Temples have been taken back. The shrines have been taken back.
Those shrines actually to the side of WildHeart Esports as Lunara does manage to get the channel in bottom, Bad Benny low, but that's where that level 1 comes into play. Bad Benny is utilizing his health pool very well with this level 1, but you know who might not be able to get out of this one? It might be Hazuabs. The phase shift, oh my god, it must have been interrupted because it felt like that was enough channel time.
No, time slows down when you're waiting for phase shift.
Oh,
That's
I agree.
What happens.
Oh, I agree. Time literally, because it's not that long of a channel time. It's 2 seconds, but 2 seconds in Heroes of Storm or any MOBA feels like a literal eternity.
Yep. I'm pretty sure it was at 1.95 seconds or so.
Because there's that.
Sometimes Brightwing actually Z's in,
but it doesn't
get the heal.
Yeah. I think we had that last season in CCL. I think that actually happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck happened? You pointed that out to me, and I was like, I'll never forget this, because the terrifying thing is if you phase shift in and you don't. Oh, good night. Great stun, great blessed shield from Joanna. But if you phase shift
I'm gonna file that under unexpected deaths because he was just standing there and thought it's totally fine. It's like Uther was walking up to me, stunning me, like I'm totally fine. 1700 health plus. In comes Haben with the blessed shield. Bang!
I love the blessed shield utilization from Haben. 60-second cooldown already on 30 seconds, and we continue to see siege through the mid from the Dragonite. Through the bottom lane from 3 members in top lane. Blaze is defending up against the Hogger. We look at the 10 talent tiers. We do have that mind control for Hazuabs.
Hogger, when he's full on rage, 100%, he's constantly getting movement speed and healing. He's really hard to take down. I mean, basically impossible for Blaze. So he gets the push in pretty good. Has no mana pool, so can constantly keep going. In comes Brightwing here. Bad Benny's kind of, in a strange way, limit testing quite deep. He's drawing a lot of resources from the enemy team, but he's mostly just taking a lot of auto attacks in comes Hogger, does get the cleanse. He tries to go away. Blink heal, but the slow is there. Shockwave. This is some good footwork here by Copen and Yasuo. I'm extremely impressed that Yasuo kept everyone alive there. Nice escape. But ultimately, what was gained, you know? I guess a bit of a distraction for the Dragon Knight not to go completely to town on the fort. So good job, Oxygen, really.
Oxygen are making some decent plays on Shire, map number 4. Benny trying to put pressure onto Zergling in the rotation out, but I don't think anything connected, as we will see a bottom lane Bruiser camp to the side of WildHeart Esports. Oxygen down by half a level, quarter a level, however you want to split that. It's ever changing, but they're down by a little bit in levels. HoTS gets the phase shift from Brightwing. That means phase shift is not available for 38 more seconds, and Bad Benny has to get out of here as quickly as possible, as he is chunked, and he needs that level 1 to really proc. He's got that third wind, which means his healing output's higher, and the threshold he can heal to goes from 40 to 60%.
That's gonna help quite a bit. Level 13 is reached for WildHeart. They get Abolish Magic on Lunara. Get that Collision Cores, Blessed Hammer, of course. We get the Shrink Hammer called Well Met. Tyka's thinking about it. Is he gonna get the Spell Armor? He's wondering, do I need it? Am I going overkill build? Or maybe some healing on my minigun? It is gonna be the Spell Armor, quite wise, I would say. Hogger, Tass, and Sylve have a very large percentage of their damage going in as Spell Armor. HoTS gets a cheeky little tower. Level 13 is getting close. We've heard Oxygen at their worst. Is there a chance to jump in and hear them at their best? Are they vibing a little bit better? Shall we give it another chance, Bahamut, or are you thinking let's just cast this?
I believe in your call here, Grubby. Let's listen in to Oxygen, see how they're getting along.
I wanna.
Gaining from
Pushing bottom. She doesn't have a leap, and Uther might be farmable.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have the. Care mid, they are walking through the.
Yeah, Yana above you.
Their move command, they're tanking.
Yeah, but
I top prior coming mid.
they see us both.
Z in 18.
Blaze is mid.
We have to walk on
Okay, look Blaze.
What does he do?
Yeah.
Care mid. I'm pretty sure.
He's baiting, I think.
Z in 5, careful.
Blaze is coming bot, so still a top prior.
No bless now.
Zing on Hazel.
I'm fine, yeah. Alright. Have stun still. We take this fight, no bless.
Yeah.
Kinda low.
Still hidden.
Stunning here.
I can 40.
It's a good choke, it's a good choke.
Get the
Yes,
top
blade?
side. Okay.
I walled them. Tychus?
Yeah, I'm on Tychus, he's slow.
I can't man up.
I need help here.
Oh, Yana is getting really low. We're alive.
It's not loaded, I'm recalling.
Yeah, let's run from the sun. What the fuck? Getting the mid XP first.
We got to hear a little bit of how Oxygen is playing some of these fights. A lot more slow-paced comms, just in general. But definitely, as we were watching that fight, the biggest sort of takeaway I wanna talk about from that is WildHeart health bars didn't really seem to drop much, if at all, whereas Oxygen seemed to be hemorrhaging health in any sort of moment of that fight through bottom.
Yep. Oh, wow. What? Haven just stepped off. I thought he had this for sure. I thought it was going to be nice little, what's the nearest holiday? Easter? Belated Easter gift? I don't know. It looked like it was going to be a gift. What's that?
Memorial Day?
Sure. Yeah. A siege camp. Reminder. Yeah, that's okay. So they get their own siege camp. Lucky for Oxygen. Big MVP plays there from Yasuo, keeping everyone alive. There were very little like orchestrated calls. Oh, we missed that. Then he died. It was not easy for Yasuo to keep everyone alive in that bottom fight, and he did. They pulled back. Didn't even cost them the fort. Legendary plays by Yasuo. Kept it. Yeah, not much damage in the return. Get zergling here.
Oh no.
But it's actually a reverse.
Oh no. Oh no. HoTS is like, I got you with the mind control, and Zergling was like, I was jet propulsioning into your face regardless.
Yeah, call me, but not for an ambulance.
Yeah, oh my god, that's gonna be Blink heal from Yasuo, who just left Copen to die. Oh no. That's a triple kill.
Oh,
With Murden just now respawning, WildHeart, they've got Dragonite. This should be mid fort to go down. I expect mid and bottom fort to go down from this Dragonite phase, which is
and 2 towers.
Oh, it's a great movie. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Every Christmas.
I really, honestly, I've been thinking about it. I really need to spend the 9-ish hours and watch The Fellowship again. Such a good series. But Zergling will find.
Have some fun while you're at it.
I should. I really should. I'll go to the restaurant and I'll have them put the movie on for me at the restaurant too. That way I can eat it there. But it's a 6-1 in our kills, and it just feels like WildHeart are constantly just closing in on Oxygen every single way, shape, or form. Bad Benny goes in with the Dwarf Toss. There's a kick from the Dragonite. Yasu with the phase shift as well. Copen looking to chase in here. Right above them is Blaze. Blaze might have the Jet Propulsion. There's a Mind Control connecting onto Haben, who pops the Iron Skin. Jet Propulsion from Zergling will connect onto 2. We have Brightwing going down. Shield glares onto Bad Benny as he's trying to back away. Mason Blaze chasing in the damage over time. Will it be enough? Will there be enough damage over time onto Bad Benny? He will fall to that extended range from the level 7. That Blossom Swell gave the distance to close that range onto Muradin, and with 2 dead for 25 to 33, this should be a keep to fall.
They're going for the keep. They're going for Tassadar. He uses Dimensional Shift. Archon is gonna be enough this time. It's very close. Gets away. D-Shield. Good D-Shield, because Blaze was taking the fort aggro. So that was really well done. Blocking the shock, blocking that shockwave. Really a good Uther, like Justin said. Mind Control, Blaze. There's a lot of damage coming in here. If that Brightwing pops, but he spun cowardly in the backwards.
Only, Copen, you're only allowed to click left. You can't click to the right. That's just not allowed here. But 20 talent here is going to be soon for the side of WildHeart. Another objective phase should be fairly soon announced. It's a very short cooldown from when the Dragonite falls to when the objective, the Moon and the Sunshine, will spawn or be announced. Until then, it's double camps for the side of WildHeart. Wisp to go in the center bush area. And I'm just checking WildHeart vision from that really quickly. What can they see from it? So the assumption is that the enemy's on bottom camp, and I'm seeing some pings coming out for bottom lane defense as well from the Uther. But let's see what happens here. Half a level to 20. I think WildHeart, they just turtle up, wait for 20, and try and poke down this bottom wave.
Oxygen wants the Black Arrow. They want to ride a wave all the way to the beach. This is them trying to get a desperate fight in. Big resources are drawn by Oxygen. Have to be drawn before even really starting their own counteroffensive, right? There's always a Brightwing Z just to save Bad Benny for nothing at all.
Yeah.
Like, he gets chunked to 20%, needs a giant heal. He didn't even start the fight yet.
And during all of that bottom lane rigmarole, if you will, Zergling pushed up a wave. He got the top lane fort. He got the Sunshine. That's Zergling with the Dragonite. Dragonite, for anyone that does not know, does deal extra damage into structures, but dear lord, a fantastic mind control from Hazuabs. That might have been a little bit of a pause in the aggression from the side of WildHeart, but I look at the minimap and I think my point is moot, as we do have Lunar and friends looking to maybe push in through bottom lane, Uther zoning back.
Yeah, imagine like a meter of momentum, left 0, right 100 on the score. The meter was going over 100 for WildHeart. It was like titillating over that 100 line. It's like, it's over the max, the momentum, they're unstoppable. Suddenly, Johanna gets picked off, 100-0, can't even press Iron Skin. Boom, it's back in the center. Still, level lead, yes. Storm tier talent lead, but it's not over yet. Johanna's still dead. Blaze is going to be caught out by himself. Now, this does give WildHeart the chance to get the bottom keep for sure. That felt like an early mind control, but the force wall is glorious. Zergling may actually be able to get away with that mind control timing. The keep did fall, so WildHeart still got their pound of flesh.
I think everything that WildHeart burned to stay alive, being Divine Shield and Bunker, was so worth it. Divine Shield being, what, a 90-second cooldown, Bunker on a 70-second cooldown. So those, yes, you did pull 2 heroics out of the side of WildHeart, but you just lost your bottom lane keep, and there's no periodic catapult pressure to match the side of WildHeart. So there's constant catapults being forced in through bottom lane. The silver lining in all of this, the members of Oxygen have finally hit their level 20, so it's even talent here. Oxygen can look for an even talent here fight. They don't need to just go fishing with mind control on a 40-second cooldown. It's now on a 15-second cooldown. HeroesHearth should be throwing that out almost off cooldown, or at least fishing for enemies as much as he possibly can to just sway the momentum here. Blaze is showing in mid lane. Bad Benny and crew, what can they do?
Now, the big master talent here, the big game-winning talent, if they can make... Oh, Bless Shield! Bless Shield! Cleanse. Good cleanse by Yasuo. Mind control. The big game winner here is level 20 Tassadar Force Wall. It gets an insane range on almost no cooldown at all. You can constantly fish, zone, damage, slow, dismount. It's so good. Basically, when Tassadar gets 20, I always see him win the games. But is that going to be true here? Because this is WildHeart, not some random scrubs of Storm League, myself included.
Bad Benny looking to step up. Thunderclap. There's going to be a force wall. A lot of damage into Bad Benny, who's going to pop the avatar. There will be a condemn from the Joanna. Blessed Shield is on a 20-second cooldown. Yasuo so low. Jet Propulsion connects. There will be the Archon popped by Nick. We have Zergling, who I believe got the Divine Shield to step forward into this. Bad Benny chunked. Copen chunked. Nick chunked as well. Haben to zone back the enemy. And it looks like WildHeart, they're going to go for a slower burn here. They're going to be looking for the Dragonite. We already have Lunara, Mason Blaze on the bottom. We have Zergling rushing to top. Weary Day Haben hanging out in mid. Haben should be zoning, stepping forward, anchoring for the team, but Oxygen, they're trying to make something happen here. It still is 4v4. Copen needs to be careful here. If there's a Blessed Shield to lock him down, he could fall as he gets the nice big bounce out of there. Mid lane, no Dragonite available because Bad Benny stalls things out by getting the Moon Shrine. But I think in the end, we still see the Dragonite to the side of WildHeart, Zergling with the channel.
Yeah, the classic cat and mouse game here. This phase of Dragonshire. Wait, oh,
nice tag.
Never
on the camp.
really see this. Never really see this on Dragonshire. That kind of greedy delay on the objective, just because it's too important to get it. It's usually too hotly contested. But this time they were so confident. They tagged into the Bruiser camp as well. Bad Benny just jumped away from the mid lane. It's going to be a bottom lane defense. 1 level lead, most likely, by the time that they arrive, which is a 4% health and damage advantage.
Mind control to miss. Shock rays coming out from Tassadar to poke. There's a kick from the Dragonite onto Muradin. Commandeer Odin coming down as well. Has the big red button from level 20. Joan also does have the Blinded by the Light level 20 for that Storm Shield. The Dragonite right now is hitting into structures for 900 damage. Shockwave from Hogger comes through. Divine Shield by the Uther will be utilized, as well as the Commandeer Odin is starting to chunk into this core. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it matters what happens here. The members of WildHeart take map number 4. They take the second series of the day in a 3-1 way, and I have to say, WildHeart played surgically, in my opinion. I think they were so decisive in what they wanted to do in so many of these games. Game one, that one was a little bit of a, I think it was a little bit of a draft blunder. They wanted to play this siege-heavy composition, and they just got dove and shut down. But game 2, 3, and 4 from WildHeart here, Justin, were methodical, surgical. It weren't perfect, but a lot better than I think I could have executed with any of these heroes, with any of these teams.
Yeah, WildHeart played absolutely phenomenally in this series. After game 1, their warm-up game, just absolutely near perfect play from them coming out game after game after game. There was a little bit of a back and forth on Cursed Hollow, but this team looks very scary, and it's really good to see for the longevity of them as a roster, or the expectations for them that they're able to also do it on Dragonshire, because like I mentioned before during the draft, this map is completely different than the other maps. You don't play it in the same way. It plays completely differently than everything else. We listened to the comms from Oxygen in that game, and they were still just... it wasn't even close to what we heard from the first week. Going up against WildHeart, they were very demoralized. They were very just quiet. You could tell that they had felt a little beat up by WildHeart, that they just didn't feel like there was any answer. It was all reactive. It was constantly just reacting to what WildHeart was doing. And for me in the last game, Weary Day is going to be my MVP. I talked about it before during the draft that his Uther is the best Uther in the league. I'd say that with confidence. He's absolutely nuts on the hero. And it felt like in the team fights, even though there's a lot of spread damage on the other side, you have things like Hogger, you have Tassadar, you have Sylvanas, all this spread damage. It felt like the team with the Uther was the one that was actually sustaining through all of that. It never felt like there was any moment where the Uther with his lack of sustain healing was being taken advantage of in any way. It felt like the supports were swapped or something, and everyone on the side of WildHeart just played basically perfect this game. At level 20s as well, Grubby, you talked about it during the game that they have Task Wall level 20. It should be nearly impossible to lose the game when you have that. You have things like the Mind Control level 20, which just allows you to just fish for picks. And even with the level 20s coming through that were definitely better for Oxygen, WildHeart just completely destroyed them in a 5v5 with those level 20s. So even with less tools, they're still winning the fights. So, and then this HeroesHearth, once again, this moment from HeroesHearth with the Mind Control over the wall is the only reason that this game didn't end with that DK was because of HeroesHearth. So even in their losses, HeroesHearth's always performing. You could hear it even in the comms as well. I want to like shout out HeroesHearth for being the rock of the team. We don't see him with all those trophies in his background when we do the interviews for no reason. He's a seasoned veteran of just games in general, and it really comes through here. So even though his team lost, HeroesHearth's just his comms were still the same. He was the only one who seemed completely unfazed by it. But WildHeart, I'm very excited for them, and it's looks shaping up to be a good season to be a WildHeart fan.
I agree indeed, and actually we've got Zergling on the call ready to go for a short little interview. Zergling, can you hear us, my friend?
Sure can. How you guys doing?
Great, thank you so much for asking. Now, of course, I gotta throw it right back to you. How are you feeling beating Oxygen in a 3-1 way? Like, it didn't even go to Game 5.
It felt really good. We've been putting a lot of work in synergizing with our team and getting over some communications and getting used to playing with each other. And I think so far this season, there hasn't been a single EU team that's beaten an NA team, right? So we're going to keep that up. Hopefully tomorrow keep it going. So...
Big thoughts on that one. I do want to ask one quick question before I throw it over to Justin and Grubby is, do you find it difficult to control Haben's bloodlust? Because we were in comms, I think it was Sky Temple, and you were all calling, like, let's back off and do this, and Haben's just running forward, I think it was on Joanna, like, looking for more kills.
He was like saying, go, go,
yeah,
go.
Yeah, he kept saying go.
Go.
Like, do you find it hard to control Haben's bloodlust in some of these moments? Because he feels like a very good anchor and also aggression on your team.
I think the best way is, like, last season we had Tremor, and we were kind of like an engine where we relied on Tremor to make plays and call and look for those things. And the first 2 weeks with Haben, we kind of we realized at the start that it wasn't going to work the same way, and we needed to change plans. So we changed our entire style. We were like, hey, Haben is a Korean tank. He is better than everyone. Let's follow him. If he says go, 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 we go, go, go. If we say back, we go back. And that's kind of what we play. You know, we could say like, hey, Ben, we need to back off here. And he'll just be like, no, go, go, go. And usually it works out. But if we die, he just says like, sorry. And it's like, whatever, we look for it. But I'd rather be aggressive and punish people for what they're doing. And all of our eyes are on Haben. Haben, only on 180 ping, is able to land these, you know, Murden Storm Bolts, these Blessed Shields, all these things. We're always looking and waiting for him to make that play. So.
And I think this series really showcases that, and thank you for answering that question. Of course, Justin, any questions for Zergling?
Yep, congrats. I guess just what are your expectations for this season with how you guys have been doing so well so far?
They have been, scrims and just overall playing have been getting a lot better as a unit, and I think I have a pretty good handle on the meta right now for drafting. So I feel very confident in the first half of the season. We may have some players missing for a couple series and whatnot over the season, so we need to make sure we get those wins early on, and we got to make sure we hit the ground running. So for us, being a team that we have some core players from last season, and we have some 2 new players, and especially communications issue at the start, and now we're doing a lot better. It is really nice to see that we're winning these series early on, which I'd expected to be very difficult. So I'm very happy that we're still winning, and our goal is obviously land. So winning more games is obviously the way to go.
Oh, and honestly, WildHeart has had a fantastic start to their season. You 3-0'd Simplicity last weekend. You get this 3-1 against Oxygen. Of course, Grubby, any questions for Zergling?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you about Cursed Hollows. Maybe it's like a little bit more detailed than after these really interesting generalist, points of view on the league, which fascinating. But the Cursed Hollow situation, you guys don't have any boss control tools per se. And still, you keep showing up to the boss battle, right? The 5 of you, you're standing there. You're like, okay, they've got holy ground, and we can't steal it from them. But it looked like you weren't even trying, and you were okay with that. It looked like you were targeting PvP. Did you intentionally let them use some tools to take the boss, and then just want to win the follow-up battle?
They have Hogger and Tyrael, so they have very low vision control is the word I would like to use for that. Is that if you have a Blaze or a Urel, you can kind of hold chokes very well. And if on a Cursed Hollow, there's so many different ways that you can fight and different angles that you can flank. And every time that you're in a boss situation and they can't have people that hold space and they have to play for boss, we only look for kills. At that situation, if we're playing into the boss pit and we're ignoring the backline, we're going to lose that situation most times, especially with boss control. So going into those fights, I think every single time I'm like, Haben, fight, fast. And he's like, okay. And he goes in and he calls a target and we go on that target. So that's the way we kind of did it. And we weren't playing for boss. We didn't care about boss. I know that if we get the kill with the way I drafted our comp, that we have high enough siege damage that we can win the game through macro at the end. So.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
Super interesting.
Yep. I have one final question for you before we go to shoutouts. Next weekend, because we actually got to interview 30K earlier, and they were pretty humble in their opinion going up against you. Actually, literally, Madara, I think, was calling you the dark horse of your team, the dark horse of CCL Season 4. What are your thoughts going up against 30K next Sunday?
Should be a banger of a series. Should be fun.
All right, simply put. Thank you so much, Zergling. And of course, as always, before you get out of here, any shoutouts that you'd like to give, the floor is all yours.
Sure thing. Shout out to WildHeart, amazing org. We do some really great stuff with HRCS and a couple other organizations. Shout out to Jazzy for setting up scrims and being a great manager. Shout out to Haben for being a great tank. His Twitch is Haben234. He's always streaming late night NA time. So if you guys want to watch him and give some support for him, that'd be great. Shout out for my team for putting in the hard work, and also shout out for my girlfriend for supporting me. And shout out for you guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Zergling, for joining us. Good luck in your scrims, your practice, and everything in between. And we'll see you next Sunday up against 30K. Alrighty, well, with that is our second best of 5 of the day in the books, and overall, it was a fantastic day of games. Before we start jumping into like standings and all that, I want to get one more closing thought from both of you on this series, because I don't think we really kind of wrapped up WildHeart versus Oxygen. And Justin, do you have any takeaways from this final matchup of the day, whether it be in-depth analysis or just overall feelings?
Just that WildHeart was not only winning this series 3-1 because of their team fights. It wasn't just that they were outplaying them mechanically or anything like that. It was that they were winning on all fronts. In 90% of those games, they would only take fights when they had a macro advantage. And that to me is kind of the sign of just a well-rounded, good team that you could really have faith in going into the rest of the season. That's good to see.
Grubby, any closing thoughts on this final series of the day?
Yeah, I think WildHeart looked strong last week, but they looked so much better even today. I'm also very impressed that, Haben, as a Korean, as a tank, if we used Simplicity as an example, where we're like, yeah, if someone is from a different region and they're the tank and they're from a different region than some of the others, like Porky playing tank for 3 Koreans, that could be really difficult to communicate. But that doesn't seem to affect Haben at all, who is the tank, who is Korean, where he does speak less English, and they're making it work. He's playing well, the synergy looks great, you don't see any kind of disconnect between the teams. So they're putting in the work, synergy is good, WildHeart looked extremely strong. I was a little, shocked actually at the relative radio silence when we jump in off the comms of Oxygen. Had we not heard them at all, I would say, well played, did what they could. They won last week, and they won quite hard against Chili Mountain with a big score. And now, lost, but WildHeart was great. Now I'm thinking there's a bigger problem for them to solve, and I hope that they can, because I want every team to do well and fight hard. So that's my takeaway there. I'm left reeling from Oxygen's performance, but WildHeart was so strong they would make anyone at a loss for words.
And we'll get you caught up onto those standings in just a little bit, because right now, just like last season, we got everyone's favorite segment. We have got Justin to break down the super duper amazing clip of the day, powered by Wisdom.
Yep, got the super duper clip right here, and we go into Cursed Hollow. We see that the members of Oxygen are a little bit low. Zergling goes in with the stun. Watch Ivy Tings with the ball. The ball actually goes onto the Hogger, who delivers it into the backline and just gets shredded. Him and Rhaegar are bouncing it back and forth. Bad Benny looks to get the Sanct, but it's a little bit late. Haben over the wall is super important to watch. He watched how he waits to Stormbolt until the moment that HoSwabs is touching that wall, looking to jump over. He knows that that's the time to wait. Mason Blaze gets over the wall, and just an insanely clean execution by WildHeart in that game. That was kind of the moment that ended the series overall, I think, especially morale-wise for WildHeart.
It was a very short clip, but you saw, I mean, it was a quadra kill for the side of WildHeart Esports, and I think, Justin, as you broke down, they executed so effectively, and I think that was the best thing, too. Right at the end of the clip, you're watching Haben waiting for Hazuops to get near that wall to go for the agility, and even if that Stormbolt didn't connect, you already had Mason Blaze throwing that Haunting Wave ready to catch Hazuops if he does go over the wall, so a lot of really good communication that we can see right there from the side of WildHeart, and that is one of the many reasons why they take the series 3-1 up against Oxygen Esports. And so let's go ahead and actually update everyone at home about these standings. Grubby, could you break down the updated standings from today's matches?
We had 1-0 at the top half, 0-1 at the bottom, as would be normal after the first weekend. Now we can see that 30k and WildHeart extend their lead, both winning 2-0. Oxygen now takes a loss. Simplicity is the first to reach 0-2. Kind of expected after we saw them last season. The teams that only have one match so far. Of those, only Diamond Hands had one last weekend. We'll see them play tomorrow. Will Diamond Hands join that vaunted top 3 that has the position to be automatically qualified for the LAN? Or will they get down and dirty and get down to the center area? There's one more team that will be 0-2 as well tomorrow. Who's it going to be? Granite, Storm, or Chili?
Well, as you're alluding to right here, Grubby, we can take a look at tomorrow's matches and see who's going up against who. And Justin, of course, could you break down the 2 best-of-5s on Sunday, May 15th?
Our first match will be Diamond Hands going up against Storm Esports, which, like Grubby mentioned, will be extremely important for Diamond Hands if they want to remain the only other team at 2-0 in the top 3 in the standings. And in the next match after that, we'll have Chili Mountain going up against Granite, which this is kind of feels reminiscent of a bit of a rivalry from last season, even though the rosters are completely different. It's just just 2 European rosters once again going head-to-head in the second match. Both of these matches I think will be really exciting, but the first one is what I'm most excited for. Both of those teams very close in the standings, and this match is likely to determine where they fall by the end of the season.
It has been a really fun day of games. We're going to have more amazing matches tomorrow here on HeroesCCL, as well as over on Grubby's channel. Those matches will be happening at 11 a.m. PDT, 2 o'clock EDT, and 20 CEST. We want to thank Ball Street for partnering with us for HeroesCCL Season 4, and we want to thank also Next Level Gaming for sponsoring HeroesCCL Season 4. From Justin, Grubby, myself, and the Wisdom family, we thank you all so much for watching our esports tournament here, and as I mentioned, we'll be back tomorrow for 2 more best of 5s. Until then, stay safe out there, drink some water, and we'll see you in the Nexus. Good night.